Chapter 51. Fu Yunruo turned around and saw Siyu standing behind her. She whispered apologetically, "Did I wake you up?" When she came out, her movements were already very light. She did not expect to wake him up. Siyu said, "I just came out to drink some water." He shook the cup in his hand. What he meant was that he was not woken up by her. Moreover, at this time, he was not asleep yet. Siyu put down the cup and used another clean cup to fill half a cup of hot tea. With his other hand, he brought a stool over and sat down beside Fu Yunruo. Siyu handed the cup to Fu Yunruo. Fu Yunruo took it and thanked him. The stool was very short and small. After Siyu sat down, he had nowhere to place his long legs. He stretched his legs casually. The two of them were silent for a moment. Fu Yunruo held the cup with both hands and felt the temperature that was not boiling hot. Then, she took 2 sips. It was very quiet in the courtyard and outside. It was so quiet that only the sound of cicadas and frogs could be heard. Fu Yunruo's mood also calmed down. Siyu suddenly asked, "Are you going to stay here with the child?" "Of course not," Fu Yunruo said. "After all, the education resources here are not as good as those in the big cities. When one has grown up and also needs to study." She had already asked Tian to help her find housing resources. However, after considering all aspects, she could not go out for a while. Previously, Fu Yunruo chose to look for housing in the capital mainly because she had more acquaintances. It was not necessary to go to a completely unfamiliar city and blindly search. If there was anything, they could take care of each other. Considering this, when she first opened her studio, she also opened it in the capital. Now that these old friends had appeared one by one, if Fu Yun thought that they were also in the capital, wouldn't she be disturbed every 2 to 3 days in the future? It was always annoying to have flies flying around in front of her. But on second thought, there was no need for her to hide from them. She also did not have the time to block her all day long, right? It seemed as if she was afraid of them. If Fu Yun felt that she would be at a disadvantage if she gave up such a superior environment like the imperial capital for them, wouldn't she? Fu Yun had originally considered whether she should change cities. Now that she thought about it, she had not done anything wrong. Why should she give up a more familiar and superior environment for them? "See you." His eyes flickered and he pretended to ask casually, "Are you going to the capital?" Fu Yun nodded. "I'm going to take a look at it at the end of the month." "When are we leaving?" "There's no hurry. If we really go there, it'll be after the new year." "Well, if you have any difficulties, you can tell me. I can still help." Fu Yun's eyes curved into crescents. "All right, if there's really a need, I won't be polite." Of course, she didn't think that she would encounter any trouble that was difficult to solve. "If you don't want to see those people again, I can help." Siyu thought that these people would be of some use. After he helped to resolve this matter, Fu Yun would no longer have to worry about anything. In the end, she already had a plan. Siyu felt that what he had done previously was extremely stupid. Fu Yun looked at him in surprise and shook her head. "I can solve my own problems." Although Siyu had the support of the company, the outcome of going against the Son of Destiny was not too good. Fu Yun didn't want him to ruin his bright future because of her. "You've already done enough for us," Fu Yun thought to herself. Siyu really liked when he could actually go to this extent. Siyu didn't say anything for a moment. After a moment, he asked, "What do you think of the Fu family?" Fu Yun didn't react for a moment, and there was a hint of confusion in her eyes. "What do you think of Chairman Fu?" This concerned his attitude towards his son's biological grandfather. He had to act according to his son's mother's mood. Fu Yun hesitated. "If I say that he's not my father in my heart, will you think that I'm cold-blooded?" Her father in the other world couldn't be more outstanding compared to the one in this world. Although he didn't spend much time by her side when she was young, he was like her mother and doted on her very much. He would remember her birthday and give her gifts. He would also try his best to be by her side on special occasions. She couldn't agree with this father in her heart. However, she also knew that blood ties couldn't be cut off. If she took the initiative to sever ties, the world would only condemn her and point fingers at her from the opposite side. She wasn't afraid of these rumors and slanders, but she was worried about when one could make her fearless in her armor, but he was also her only weakness. She couldn't bear to let him face even the slightest bit of rumors. Sometimes, I really don't know what to do. She couldn't ignore everything that had happened to the original body. One day, she would have to resolve it, no matter how. No. You looked at her and said word by word, "You've already done very well. No matter what you want to do, I'll support you." Fu Yun looked up at him. Inexplicably, she felt that Siyu was especially dazzling at this moment, so she didn't dare to look directly at him. She responded softly and felt much more relaxed. Forget it, everything will be fine when it comes to it. She would take her own steps and take it slowly. It's very late. Go back and sleep. Fu Yun thought that she had been out for a long time. It wouldn't be good if Wenwen woke up, so she stood up and said, "Then I'll go back to my room." "Mr. Yu, thank you. Good night." "Good night." Siyu watched Fu Yun go back to her room. He also went back to his room and immediately summoned Yuan Xian. He asked him to find out if Fu Yun was going to buy a house or rent a house, if there were any movements, if there were any difficulties, and if necessary, he would provide assistance. Yuan Xian said in surprise, "You managed to convince her?" Yuan Xian clicked his tongue in wonder. It was really not easy to convince someone so quickly. "See you." He thought of many persuasive words, but he didn't say a single one. She had already planned to do so. There was no need to say such a shameful thing. But who was Yuan Xian? As a manager who had been with Siyu for 10 years, even if he didn't fully understand Siyu's temperament, he could occasionally understand some of it. When he noticed Siyu's unusual silence, he immediately thought of many things. Hence, he probed. Did she change her mind? "Siyu, I'm hanging up. Goodbye." This manager was always smart in areas where he shouldn't be. Before Siyu hung up the phone, he heard Yuan Xian suddenly burst into laughter. His eyebrows twitched. Wasn't it just a miscalculation? What was so funny? However, even though there was a small error in the process, the final result was what he wanted. Hence, Siyu was in a very good mood. In the next 2 days, those people did not come to look for her. Fu Yun heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that they didn't come to bother her. However, even though they didn't come, the production team did. When she heard the production team's request, Fu Yun didn't react for a long time. "You mean you want to invite me to participate in the show?" "Yes, Miss Fu. We hope that you can consider it carefully. Our production team will pay you an additional 20% of your value," Director Pang said sincerely. "Also, you don't have to re-record from beginning to end. We just hope that you can finish recording the remaining 5 days of the show." The production team was very sincere. They really had no other choice. When they received news that Feng Shui was coming back, they specially went to stop her. Finally, they received an affirmative answer. Feng Shui was not filming anymore. The production team could also find someone else to save the show. However, the A-list male and female celebrity schedules were very slow recently, so they couldn't find the time. As for the celebrities who had the time to save the show, they weren't as famous as Feng Shui. Even though her image had collapsed recently, she wasn't someone that B-list celebrities could step on openly. To replace Feng Shui's position, not only was her backing not to be trifled with, but they also didn't dare to provoke her crazy fans. They weren't afraid that if the celebrities with backing Feng Shui couldn't find the time to save the show, and if the celebrities with the time to save the show were worried about offending Feng Shui, the consequences wouldn't be worth it. As a result, they couldn't find anyone to save the show. Was this show destined to end prematurely? Just as he was having a headache, an assistant from the production team suggested that they look for Fu Yun. Director Ping's eyes lit up. This was a great idea. Because of the past dispute with Feng Shui, Fu Yun had gained some recognition among the public. And Fu Yun was also one of the A-list streamers in the live streaming industry, so she had some fame too. Furthermore, her fans had only seen her face recently, so it was a rare moment. Before her identity was revealed, she was already on the hot search list based on her looks. This showed that she was very popular. And she was here in person. As long as she nodded, they could start filming immediately. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was a good idea. Director Pang brought his assistant and hurriedly found Fu Yun to tell her his request. Fu Yun found it unbelievable when she heard it. The production team invited her to do the show? No matter how she looked at it, this matter had nothing to do with her, right? "Miss Fu, only you can help us." If the show doesn't continue filming, the production team will be scrapped. Director Peng pleaded. We thought about it, and only you are the most suitable for our production team. Director Peng's voice kept crackling, and Fu Yun felt a little dizzy from the shock. I'm sorry, but I can't agree. Why don't you find someone else? Fu Yun didn't want to participate in the variety show, let alone replace Feng Shui. She felt disgusted. Miss Fu, Wenwen's little head popped out of the door. He leaned against the door and blinked his bright eyes. Grandpa Director, are you inviting my mother to participate in the show? Wenwen's black eyes rolled around. Was his mother going to enter the entertainment industry? Director Peng said with a smile. Yes? Little kid, do you want to see your mother on TV? Director Peng had a good impression of this lively child, and his voice couldn't help but sweeten a few degrees. Fu Yun looked at the mischievous child and said helplessly, children shouldn't interrupt when adults are talking. Wenwen's chubby cheeks suddenly puffed up. I'm not a child anymore. I'm an adult. He pattered in and straightened his small body. He said seriously, my mother doesn't work in the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry was so deep. He hadn't grown up and didn't have the ability to protect his mother. He didn't want his mother to get involved. Why? You can earn a lot of money if you enter the entertainment industry. You can buy a lot of candy and toys. Director Peng. Fu Yun frowned. The child is still young. How could she tell him so many things that a child shouldn't hear? Money? A light bulb lit up on Wan Wen's little head. He had been a normal child and enjoyed a carefree life. However, the appearance of Feng Shui and her mother, the Fu and Chang families, made Wan Wen feel a sense of crisis. Compared to those people, his mother was too weak. He wanted to protect his mother and let her have someone to rely on. However, he was too young. His small arms and legs couldn't fight against those huge assets. Since that was the case, he could only grow up in advance. The first thing he had to do when he grew up was to earn a lot of money and accumulate wealth. Only then could he fight against them. No one wanted him to do other jobs with his small body. The only thing that could make him earn money at this age was being a child star. He wasn't afraid of the slanderous words on the internet. Wen raised his little hand and asked loudly, Can I participate? Director Peng looked at Wen and thought about how popular he was on the internet. He was very tempted. If his mother didn't want to participate, his son could too. Director Peng immediately replied, Sure, I'll pay you according to your mother's current net worth. Sorry, my son doesn't want to participate either. Fu Yun frowned and refused. I still have something to do. Forgive me for not being able to entertain you. Please help yourself. Director Peng was chased away. He looked at Wen. This child didn't have the right to speak. He had to get Fu Yun's approval first. He could only say, whether it's Miss Fu or Mr. Fu, or both of you together, our production team will agree. I hope you can reconsider. I'll come again tomorrow. After Director Peng left, only Fu Yun and her son were left in the living room. She looked at Wen, who was tiptoeing and drawing circles. Fu Wen, filming a show is not for fun. It's for adults. You haven't even gone to kindergarten, so you can't participate in an adult's show. Fu Yun said sternly. Wen retorted, I know there are child stars. He wasn't a real child. It's very tough being a child star. After you become a child star, you can't eat too much meat and you can't play with your friends. Even if you want to sleep in the afternoon, you won't be able to sleep. Then you'll be very tired every day. Wen. He hesitated. He could endure hardships, but he couldn't eat meat. Wen endured the pain and said, It's okay. I want to earn a lot of money. He wanted to save money early. In the future, when he competed with the Fu Corporation for resources and forced them to go bankrupt, he wouldn't leave anything for them. Wen was ambitious. In his previous life, he wasn't able to bring down the Fong Corporation. This time, he had more than 10 years of accumulated money and connections. He didn't believe that he couldn't bring down this giant. Is there a shortage of food or entertainment at home? Do you want a little child like you to go out and earn money early? Wen saw that his mother didn't want to give in. He knew that she didn't want him to be exposed to the public too early, but he also wanted to protect his mother. In the end, Wen used a child's trick. His small body lay on the ground and he rolled over and over. I want to film a show. I want to film a show. Fu Yun, what's wrong? Chapter 52. When Siyu returned from outside, the living room was bustling with noise. Loud noises reverberated in the air. Wenwan was rolling around on the floor, making the floor clean. His chubby hands and legs waved at the sky from time to time. He was like a little fat turtle that was trying to turn over but could not. Fu Yunruo face-bombed. Where did Wenwen learn to throw a tantrum like this? She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Wenwen howled from time to time. He kept glancing at Fu Yunruo, and 2 drops of crocodile tears came out from the corners of his eyes. Why wasn't his mother's heart softening? He was also tired from rolling around. Siyu looked at the white and chubby little ball rolling around. Coupled with the child's sharp but not ear-piercing voice, he sounded like a little pig squeaking. Siyu squatted at the side and poked the little chubby leg that was like a lotus root. He smiled and said, "Roll around, little fat pig." Wenwan, feeling offended, he suddenly became angry. "You're the fat one. This is baby fat. It'll be gone when you grow up." "Yes, yes." Siyu nodded perfunctorily and pinched the flesh on his little chubby leg. Wenwen snorted from his little nostrils. After being interrupted by Siyu, Wenwen couldn't continue howling. He crawled up from the ground, and when he passed by, he stretched out his little foot and stepped on Siyu's foot. Then, he ran to Fu Yunruo's side and hugged her thigh. He complained, "Mommy, Uncle, you bullied me." Siyu raised his eyebrows. His foot was being stepped on, and it felt like an itch. The little guy was becoming more and more rude to him recently. He said calmly, "Little tattletale." When one looked up, "Humph, Siyu." He looked even more like a little pig. Fu Yun squatted down and patted Wenwen's clothes. After rolling on the ground, her clothes were covered in dust. Wenwen looked at Fu Yunruo with a puzzled expression. Why couldn't he act coquettishly? When he saw that his underlings wanted to eat candies and buy small toys, he could get his way by rolling on the ground a few times. Thus, she changed to another way to act coquettishly. "Mommy, just promise me." Ming Ming's cute little voice sounded as if it was mixed with sugar. It was so sweet that Fu Yun also felt sweet in her heart. However, he still had to be firm in his stance. "No. Mommy, baby loves you the most." Fu Yun allowed him to act cute and coquettishly, but she remained unmoved. "No." Siyu looked at the mother and son. He had only been out for a while. What had he missed? Siyu asked, "What is Wenwen trying to do?" Fu Yunruo briefly told him about the program's director looking for her. Then, she said helplessly, "He wants to participate in the program." "Siyu." He lowered his head and looked at Wenwan, who was hugging Fu Yunruo's thighs and looking at him with a pair of big eyes. His little eyes were constantly sending out signals. "Quickly help me say something. We are good friends. This isn't fun." Wenwan retorted angrily, "I don't want to play. I want to earn money." Uncle Yu was too inconsiderate. What happened to being willing to sacrifice himself for a friend? He didn't even help him with a small favor, and even slandered him for wanting to play. He was a man who wanted to earn big money. This friend didn't understand him at all. He didn't want him anymore. Wenwen stared at Siyu with condemnation. Siyu could only say, "I misunderstood." Only then did Wenwen retract his gaze in satisfaction. Then, he looked up at Fu Yunruo. "Mommy, just agree." Wenwen. Fu Yunruo patiently reasoned with him. "If you go to film a show, there will be many people who don't know you who will see you. Some of them might not like you and scold you. If Mommy sees someone scolding you, she will be very sad." "I'm not afraid." Wenwen's voice sounded like he was about to cry. "Mommy." He had experienced an overwhelming amount of ridicule, abuse, and curses. At worst, it would be as dark as his previous life. He could bear it, but he couldn't bear his mother being surrounded by evil intentions. Wenwen thought that he would perform well on the show and let more people like him. Then, he would like his mother as well. This time, he would take good care of his reputation. He would not let his reputation be mixed, and he would not let others have the chance to slander him. Seeing this, Siyu carried Wenwan, who was about to cry. My little friend is under my protection. Naturally, he can do whatever he wants." Siyu looked at Fu Yunruo and said seriously, "Don't worry, I will protect Wenwan." Wenwan looked at Fu Yunruo expectantly. Fu Yunruo hesitated. "Siyu promised? With me around, No matter if one wants to film a television series, a movie, or participate in a show, there won't be a problem. He won't be hurt at all. Otherwise, you will hold me responsible. Thank you, Uncle Yu. Wen was so happy that his eyes narrowed. He hugged Siyu's shoulder and leaned over to rub his face. This friend was really loyal. He didn't let him down. Fuyan Ruo suddenly remembered that in the original novel, Wen had been in the entertainment industry since he was in his teens. Could it be that Wen loved acting? If that was the case, should she stop him? Baby, do you like acting? Fuyan Ruo's expression was a little complicated. In the original novel, he could become a top celebrity without anyone protecting him. This time, with someone protecting him, he would have a smooth journey, right? Fuyan Ruo had heard of Siyu's status in the entertainment industry. He was also the only person in the original novel who retired after achieving success. Even 20 years later, he was still a legendary figure. With Siyu protecting Wen, he wouldn't be so bumpy, right? Otherwise, she would still be around. The wall between the live broadcast industry and the entertainment industry was not thick. If she worked a little harder and had more connections, she would be able to let Wen have a smoother journey, right? They wouldn't end up like the original novel. When Wen heard his mother's question, he was stunned for a moment. He looked hesitant. He had never thought about whether he liked acting or not. In his heart, acting was just a way for him to make a living. Did he like acting? He thought about how he would spend the entire night thinking about a role, just to act it to the best of his ability. He thought about how he was an extra, lying on the ground for 3 to 4 hours under the scorching sun. Even if he didn't have any scenes, he still worked hard to complete it. He thought about how he wanted to hone his acting skills when Wen's eyes became brighter, and at that moment, they were as bright as a flower. I like acting. Yes, he liked acting. He liked to play different roles and live different lives. He liked to be in the limelight and be the center of attention. Fuyan Ruo wavered. Let me think about it. Should she agree? But the child was still so young. Siyu put Wen down and patted the back of his head. Go and play with your friends. Wen looked up at Uncle Yu, then at his mother. Mom, I'll go out first? Go ahead, be careful. Wen hesitated for a moment, then ran out. When the child's small figure disappeared from sight, Siyu looked at Fuyan Ruo. I understand your concerns. Don't worry, with me around, he won't be disturbed in any way. Fuyan Ruo hesitated and said, Mr. Yu, I know you treat Wen well and have always tolerated Wen's willfulness, but we've already troubled you enough. We really can't give you any more trouble. It's no trouble at all. Siyu smiled. Wen is very clever. If he wants to develop in the entertainment industry, he can sign a contract with Apple Entertainment. The company will protect him. In order to increase his credibility, he continued, I'm one of the shareholders of the company. Moreover, with Yuan Xian and Qi Weiqing around, they should believe me, right? One was recognized as the #1 manager in the entertainment industry and loved Wen as his own son. The other was a top manager and had a close relationship with Fuyan Ruo. He was also Uncle Guo's student. Fuyan Ruo was not worried. With these connections, wouldn't Wen be doted on in Apple Entertainment? Moreover, Fuyan Ruo had a very good impression of Apple Entertainment. The way he protected his son was really reassuring. Oh, so Siyu also had shares in the company. Fuyan Ruo was surprised for a moment, but she did not find it surprising. Siyu was the #1 in the company, so it was normal for him to have shares in the company. No wonder he did not open his own studio. She herself had almost been persuaded by Brother Qi to join Apple Entertainment. Although it did not work out in the end, she had to say that it was really fate. You can sign an agreement with Apple Entertainment. Of course, you won't force Wen to act or do other things. If he wants to act, he will act. If he doesn't want to act, he won't act. If he wants to leave the entertainment industry, he can leave at any time. When he grows up, he will prioritize Apple Entertainment. You can consider whether to let Yuan Xian or Qi Weiqing be the manager. I personally lean towards Yuan Xian. Qi Weiqing has 3 first and second-tier artists under him, but Yuan Xian only has me as an artist. His private life will not be disturbed. He will be like an ordinary child, living a carefree life. The last sentence hit the spot that Fuyan Ruo was most concerned about. She was hesitant because Wen was too young. She was worried that after he became a child star, he would not be able to live a carefree and happy life like an ordinary child. She was worried that he would come into contact with the complicated world of adults too early. If he could really do what Siyu said, she would not reject him. Fu Yunruo thought that perhaps after filming this variety show, Wenwen would not be interested in these things. There was no need for her to think too much. With her and Brother Chi around, they would be able to protect a child no matter what. She thought about it for a while, then thought about it for a while. In the end, she gritted her teeth and said, "Okay." Siyu smiled and said, "I'll get someone to draft a contract later." Since she had already agreed, Fu Yunruo was straightforward and said, "Okay, but I have a request. I want to be there when Wenwen is filming." No matter what, she had to see it with her own eyes to feel at ease. Of course, Siyu called Yuan Xin and explained the matter clearly in front of Fu Yunruo. The contents of the contract were very detailed. Fu Yunruo thought about it. She had never seen such a preferential contract before. On one hand, she felt a little embarrassed and felt that she was taking advantage of him. On the other hand, because it was Wenwen, she thickened her skin and accepted this kindness. Wenwen was playing outside absent-mindedly. He kept thinking about whether Uncle Yu had persuaded his mother. In the end, he could not help but reject his friend's invitation and ran home alone. When he reached home, his mother and Uncle Yu were chatting peacefully, but they were not talking about him. "Is that so? I haven't been back to the capital for a long time, so it has changed so much. To be honest, I don't have much memory of the capital. When we return to the capital, I'll take you there. I definitely won't disappoint you. Once your face is exposed, you'll probably be surrounded and unable to move. Are you sure you can take me there? Of course, my disguise skills are very good. I'll let you see it then. Then I'll look forward to it." Wenwen tilted his head. For some reason, he felt that he was a little extra, as if he should not have come back. Wenwen shouted, "Mom!" Then, he rushed over like a small cannonball and threw himself into Fu Yunruo's arms, announcing his strong presence. Fu Yunruo carried Wenwen up and sat him on her lap. "Why are you back so early?" "I missed Mom." Fu Yunruo pinched his little face. "Your little mouth is so sweet. Did you eat honey?" "Hee hee." Wenwen twisted his little body and said cutely, "I love Mom the most." Siyu looked at the mother and son who acted as if there was no one else around and narrowed his eyes slightly. He sized up the little guy who was acting coquettishly against Fu Yunruo and thought to himself, "I shouldn't have spoken up for him just now. Look at how he's kicking me to the curb after I've outlived my usefulness. Is he going to throw me away after using me?" Wenwen glanced at Siyu from the corner of his eyes. His little eyes were filled with pride. Mom was his. Mom wouldn't neglect him. Wenwen coaxed Fu Yunruo until she was beaming with joy. After a long time, he asked carefully, "Mom, did you agree?" Fu Yunruo saw the little hope that could not be hidden in his eyes and did not beat around the bush. "Yes, I agreed." Wenwen's little face instantly lit up. He leaned over and kissed her face softly. "I love Mom the most." "Thank you, Mom." Fu Yunruo deliberately put on a straight face. "Don't tell me I won't love Mom if I don't agree. I love you. I love you so much." As he spoke, he even made a heart with his little chubby hand. Fu Yunruo was amused by Wenwen's words. Ahem. Siyu Ruo, who was at the side, could not help but cough lightly. He looked at Wenwen. He was the one who had contributed greatly. In order to persuade Fu Yunruo to agree, he had spent a lot of effort. Wenwen turned to look at him. She blinked and said with concern, "Uncle Yu, have you caught a cold? Remember to take your medicine. Otherwise, if it gets serious, you'll have to get a butt injection." Fu Yunruo could not hold back. "See you." He looked at Wenwen's innocent and harmless little face and secretly gritted his teeth. This brat. While they were chatting and laughing, Yuan Xin rushed over with a head full of sweat. He held a briefcase in his hand, and his face was flushed red. "Hey, from now on, I'll be Wenwen's manager. Little Wenwen, please take good care of me." Yuan Xin beamed with joy. He never expected that before Siyu retired from the entertainment industry, he would be able to do such a great thing. It was great that he had brought his son into the entertainment industry. He could still continue to show his enthusiasm. "Siyu, This man was sometimes a little obnoxious, but he would still inform him of important decisions. For example, before filming that movie, he had already expressed his intention to retire from the entertainment industry. Yuan Xian understood. After all, this ancestor had entered the entertainment industry mainly out of interest, but it was more of a hobby. There was still a huge business waiting for him to take care of. Siyu had not filmed much in the past few years, mainly because he had already taken over the family business. 2 years ago, he had already taken over the family business completely. In the future, he would definitely not have enough time to film anymore. Yuan Xian had taken care of a few celebrities. Although they had all achieved great success, they had all left the entertainment industry at the top of their careers or for other reasons. He felt mentally tired and had already decided not to take care of any more celebrities. He had already decided to retire behind the scenes. But now, he could. Yuan Xian looked at Wenwan with sparkling eyes. What a good seedling with spiritual energy. He could still do it. He could definitely turn Wenwan into a top child star and let the whole world look forward to his growth. Wenwan blinked and was so shocked that she could not react. Manager? Uncle Yuan? Yuan Xian? Did he hear wrongly? What did Mom and Uncle Yu discuss? Wasn't it just filming a show first? Why did they even discuss signing a contract with a manager? Fu Yunrua was confused when she heard Yuan Xian's words. She did not seem to have said who would be her manager. Yuan Xian could not wait any longer. He took out a stack of papers from his briefcase. Miss Fu, take a look at this contract. If there are no problems, you can sign it. Fu Yunrua picked it up and read it carefully. Yuan Xian could not wait for Fu Yunrua to sign it immediately. He did not disturb her, and it was quiet for a moment. Yuan Xian looked at Wenwan and smiled amiably. Wenwan had a serious expression on her face as she read the contract with Fu Yunrua in a serious manner. It was as if she could understand it. He wiped his sweat and gave Siyu a flattering look. Although Siyu had a domineering personality and was very picky and hard to please, he was really good. He was actually willing to hand his son over to him. What kind of trust was this? He was so touched. Siyu's hair stood on end when he saw Yuan Xian's mushy look. He could not help but glare at him and then looked at the adult and child. Their extremely similar faces had the same expression. It was as if they were cast from the same mold. Fu Yunrua finished reading the contract carefully. The contents were basically the same as what Siyu had said. There were no loopholes in the contract. It was a contract that was completely biased towards them. Fu Yunrua felt that Siyu and the rest were at a disadvantage. She was too embarrassed to let them suffer too much. Fu Yunrua pointed at the remuneration. This percentage, wasn't it too much? Siyu glanced at her. You think that 30 to 70 is too little? I think so too. Why don't we change it to 19 to 90? Yuan Xian also nodded in agreement. Anyway, Apple Entertainment was one of Siyu's subsidiaries. Wenwan was Siyu's biological son and could be the future heir of the Si family. It would not be too much even if all the remuneration went to him. The entire company had to treat him like an ancestor. Fu Yunrua, you didn't see wrongly. It's Apple Entertainment's number 1, Wenwan's number 9. No. Fu Yunrua waved her hands. Let's do 30 to 70. Fu Yunrua was afraid that if she continued to talk, it would be too ridiculous to change it to 19 to 90. She quickly signed the contract. Yuan Xian quickly put away the contract. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation. Brother Yuan had already volunteered to be Wenwan's manager. If Fu Yunrua did not have any objections, she would not have to trouble Brother Qi. It was also quite good. I'll give you the contract after the company stamps it and sends it back in 2 days. Fu Yunrua was actually a little doubtful. Would the company be willing to sign such a generous contract? However, when she thought about Siyu's status as the number 1 in Apple Entertainment, she threw this little doubt to the back of her mind. Yuan Xian came in a hurry and left in a hurry. After knowing that Wenwan wanted to participate in the variety show, he went to look for the production team aggressively. Time passed quickly and it was soon time for dinner. Fu Yunrua went to the kitchen to cook. Wenwan's seat had been moved. At this moment, he was sitting on Siyu's lap. Even though he saw the contract with his own eyes and his mother signed it as his guardian, he still could not believe it. He felt that he was dreaming. In his previous life, even if he became a top celebrity, he would not be able to sign such a generous contract. At this moment, he was still a 4-year-old kid who had not debuted. The legendary manager in the entertainment industry had become his manager. He was considered an artist of Apple Entertainment. It was Apple Entertainment. Why did it feel so unreal? He lowered his head and looked at the big hand in front of him. He hugged it with his small hand and bit the muscle at the base of his thumb. Then, he looked up and asked foolishly, "Uncle you, does it hurt?" "See you." He lowered his head and looked at the circle of teeth marks at the base of his thumb. There was still wet saliva on it. Whose family was this silly child from? Chapter 53. Yuan Xian was very efficient. It didn't take long for him to sign a contract with the production team and join the show as a special guest. He would only be filming for 3 days. A special guest would receive the same treatment as an A-list celebrity. In order for the filming to go smoothly, Yuan Xian required that when one had to team up with Siyu, children would only feel safe around familiar people. This way, they wouldn't have to worry about not being able to continue filming. The production team was also burning their boats. No matter what, this show had to be successful. Director Peng knew that if the show died, his career as a director would come to an end. Therefore, after signing the contract, he wrote the most eye-catching script without stopping. However, the special guest was still too young, so they couldn't ask for more. As long as he could interact with Siyu, the show would be stable. After signing the contract, the production team immediately made an official announcement online. Of course, they said it beautifully. The general idea was that if Feng Shui left the show for some reason, the production team would sincerely invite a special guest and hope that the audience would support them. The world would always be more tolerant of children. It had to be said that the production team played a beautiful hand. Even if Feng Shui's fans were unfriendly to the special guest, the passers-by would still stand on the special guest's side. Moreover, this special guest was so delicate and cute. After all, the production team also explained the reason for inviting the special guest. The celebrity they wanted to invite couldn't find the time. When one wasn't unknown, he had a group of Papa and Mama fans. In order to invite this special guest, the production team had to persuade his parents to agree. Fu Yun also posted on her social media platform that the special guest was going to be on the show. She hoped that everyone would take care of her. Yun Duo's fans were happy to see this. Yun is so helpless right now. 23333. I guess the production team used a lot of candy to tempt Zai Zai. I just want to say, well done. My child is going to be on the show. Mama is so proud. My child. Countless fans jumped around and spread the news under the official announcement of the show on the platform's forum. After confirming that he would be on the show, Wenwen had been thinking about what kind of persona he should create to attract fans. He wanted a lot of popularity so that his mother could bask in the limelight. What kind of special guest was the most popular? Mischievous? Smart? Cute? Adorable? Wenwen recalled the adults' attitudes towards children with different personalities and found that most adults liked sensible and smart children from other families. Wenwen clenched his fists and made a great wish. He wanted to be someone else's child. Early the next morning, when the sky was only slightly bright, the extremely excited Wenwen woke up Fu Yun. Fu Yun looked at the time. Oh my God, it was only 5 o'clock. Wenwen jumped up and down on the bed. Mommy, it's time to wake up. Fu Yun ruo. She laid on her back on the bed and looked at the bouncing little one. She said helplessly, Baby, the show starts at 8:30. It's still early. It's getting late, Mom. Wenwen said seriously, I still have to do my hair. It'll take a long time. Yo, you even know how to style? Fu Yun could not help but laugh. Of course. Wenwen proudly stuck out his little belly. I'm an adult. Baby, why are you so cute? Fu Yun Ruo could not help but carry Wenwen up and rub him. After such a commotion, Fu Yun Ruo also became energetic and got out of bed. Wenwen got off the edge of the bed and put on her little shoes. His little face was flushed red. He thought to himself, I'm already so big, but my mother is still so childish. But who asked her to be his mother? He could only tolerate it. Sigh. The big and small movements also woke Siyu and Aunt May up. The old house instantly became lively. After washing up, Fu Yunruo went to the kitchen to cook breakfast. When one had already run into the room, opened the wardrobe, and rummaged through the clothes to wear today. He changed a few sets, but he always felt that there was nothing new about them. They were not eye-catching and could not show his handsome and cool side. When Wen's upper body was in the wardrobe, and only his 2 little feet were dangling outside the wardrobe, he found a cool military green imitation uniform from last summer, and his eyes lit up. He had only worn this uniform a few times, and it was 80% new. At that time, it was still very loose for him. He should be able to wear it this year. When took out the uniform and quickly changed into it, the length of the clothes was still suitable, but it was a little tight. When did not grow much taller, but he had grown a lot horizontally. The military green shirt of the same style was a little tight. When lowered her head and saw the outline of her belly that was very obvious. How could this be? Although he was still young, he still needed to be in shape. When took a deep breath and tried to shrink his stomach, but it was not very effective. It was still round. It's time for breakfast. Coming. When ran out, Fu Yunruo saw When come out in a new set of clothes and exclaimed in surprise. When, why are you wearing this? Last year's clothes obviously did not fit this year. Fu Yunruo did not expect that he would still be able to find last year's clothes. People with fair skin wore military green clothes that complemented their skin better. When looked more exquisite and cute, but it was not suitable to wear out. When said, "It looks good." Fu Yunruo came out with a bowl of meat porridge and placed it on the table to cool. When is really a spirited child, Aunt May praised. When said sweetly, "Grandma looks good in this flowery shirt too." Really? Aunt May smiled and lowered her head to touch the smooth shirt. Your mother bought it. Aunt May only gave birth to a son. She did not expect that she would still be able to enjoy the blessing of having a daughter when she was old. My mother also bought mine. Siyu walked out of the kitchen and glanced at Wen. He was full of youthful energy. Fu Yunruo did not expect that Wen would like this set of clothes so much. He had never shown any special preferences when it came to wearing it. Instead, he liked to wear different styles of clothes. Wen smelled the fragrant porridge and secretly swallowed his saliva. He subconsciously touched his small stomach and refused. Mom, I'm not hungry. Fu Yunruo turned his head and looked over. You don't want to eat breakfast? I'm not eating. Wen replied crisply. If you don't eat, you'll be hungry. Fu Yunruo carried Wen onto a small high stool and stirred the porridge in front of him with a small spoon. The fragrance seemed to be stronger. Wen hesitated. He lowered his head and looked at his small stomach that was more obvious when he sat down. If he ate, it would be even more obvious. Fu Yunruo noticed his small movements and knew what he was thinking after thinking about it. The child wanted to save face. He felt that his chubby body was too obvious on the show and wanted to lose weight. Fu Yunruo said gently, Wen, this set of clothes doesn't fit you anymore. Let's change to another set. Okay? Don't tell me you want to wear clothes that don't fit you on the show. Wen hesitated. Fu Yunruo said firmly, no matter what Wen wears, he will be the prettiest child in the village. Wen said proudly, of course. He thought about it and agreed. If he wore something that didn't fit him, it would also damage his handsome image. I'll change into another set of clothes later. After being comforted by his mother, Wen also changed his mind. Hence, he held the spoon in his chubby hand and happily ate his breakfast. In the end, Wen changed into a pure white t-shirt and denim pants with suspenders. He even wore an exquisite little straw hat on his head. Then, Fu Yunruo held his hand and accompanied Siyu and Yuan Xin to the location where the production team would gather. This was Fu Yunruo's request. She did not want her home to appear on camera. The production team had already gathered. When they arrived, they were already busy inside and outside. The production team had set up a few shelters under an old tree at the entrance of the village. The guests were resting and putting on their makeup inside. Yuan Xin was already talking to Director Peng at the production team. When he saw them coming over, he hurriedly said, Wen, you're here? You're here? A woman wearing a light-colored suit and exquisite makeup walked out of the shelter. When she saw Wen, her eyes lit up. Wen, This is Annie Xiaoyu. She will be your exclusive makeup artist from now on." Wenwen looked up at her and called out clearly, "Sister Xiaoyu." Pu Xiaoyu was instantly overjoyed. What a cute child. Pu Xiaoyu could not help but hold her face. She had already thought that he was cute in the video. She did not expect him to be even cuter in person. She looked at the woman beside him who looked very similar to the child. When the two of them stood together, she felt that they were a pair of siblings. She had seen many female celebrities who had given birth and spent a lot of effort to recover. However, she was the only one who could recover so well. She was even more envious. "Go on, the show is about to start," Yuan Xian urged. "Miss you, I'll leave Wenwen to you. Don't worry, Miss Fu. I'll definitely dress Wenwen up beautifully. I'm older than you. Just call me Sister Yu." "Okay, Sister Yu. You can call me Yun Ruo too." The two women quickly became closer and then brought the child into the shelter together. Siyu, who did not seem to exist at the side, was speechless. She felt neglected. Siyu asked Yuan Xian, "Why did you let her come? Didn't you say that it's just a variety show and that we can use the production team's makeup artist to appear on camera?" Yuan Xian said matter-of-factly, "How can the production team's makeup artist compare to our team's personal makeup artist? It's Wenwen's first time on a show. Naturally, she has to be in her best condition. How can we just let it be?" Siyu, who had been the only one on the set without an assistant, was speechless. Siyu felt a little jealous. Could it be that this little brat had caused everyone around him to betray him? "You're a man. Why are you jealous of a little kid?" Yuan Xian glared at him unhappily. He wanted to ask what kind of attitude this damn man had. How could he be jealous of his own son? Considering that there were too many people around, Yuan Xian spoke vaguely. In the shelter, Pu Xiaoyu was putting on Wan Wen's makeup. His skin was fair and rosy, tender and smooth. His little mouth was also rosy. Pu Xiaoyu openly took advantage of him for a long time before saying, "You don't have to put on much makeup. Just put on some powder and it'll be fine." Fu Yunruo watched as Pu Xiaoyu gently patted Wenwen's face and applied a light layer of natural color to his little lips. "It's done." Fu Yunruo carefully sized him up. He didn't look any different without the makeup, but he seemed to be more spirited and bright. Pu Xiaoyu saw that Fu Yunruo only patted some water on her face and didn't even apply sunscreen. She immediately said, "Yunruo, don't you know how to take care of your skin?" "Huh?" Fu Yunruo touched her face. "No." In such a remote place, dressing up would make her look strange. She had always been barefaced. "What a waste." Pu Xiaoyu lamented. "If I had your face, I wouldn't have to do anything. I would just have to take care of this face every day." She pressed Fu Yunruo down on her seat and opened her makeup box to take out a set of skincare products. "How can you ruin such a beautiful face? If you don't take care of your skin when you're young, you might not be able to tell the difference when you're young. But when you're older, it'll be obvious. The condition of your skin can't compare to your peers who have taken care of themselves for years." "Or is that so?" Fu Yunruo kept listening to Pu Xiaoyu talk about the benefits of taking care of one's skin and the serious consequences of not taking care of it. After all, which woman didn't want to be beautiful? If she could make herself beautiful, she wouldn't want to grow old and ugly. Pu Xiaoyu observed her face and felt even more heartache. If she took good care of her skin, it would be even better. Wenwen listened from the side and was very concerned. "I'll make sure Mom takes care of her skin in the future. This set of skincare products isn't the most suitable for your skin. I'll recommend another set. Although it's a little expensive, the effects are really good. It's also suitable for your age." Fu Yunruo and Pu Xiaoyu added WX and promised that they would take good care of their skin in the future. When one glanced at the price link sent by Pu Xiaoyu, it was so expensive. He thought to himself that he had to earn more money. After Pu Xiaoyu gave Fu Yunruo some good skincare products, Siyu sat down and did a little makeup. At this moment, the production crew's guests came over to greet Wenwen and Fu Yunruo and express their goodwill. Wang Huaibei was a little embarrassed. He was the first one among the guests who had said something bad to them in person. Only Xian Su was more at ease. Fu Yunruo had a polite smile on her face as she led Wenwen around to exchange pleasantries. After a round of greetings, she felt that her face was about to turn stiff from smiling. Not long after, the production crew was about to start filming. Fu Yunrua said a few words to Wenwen, telling him not to be nervous and to treat it as a game. Then she handed Wenwen over to Siyu and walked away from the camera to stand with the production crew. Wenwen looked at the camera of the live broadcast equipment and felt a sense of nervousness that he hadn't felt in a long time. But after a while, he calmed down and didn't cower. He had seen bigger situations before. As usual, the guests opened the show to liven up the atmosphere and then brought out the special guests. The director and production crew nervously looked at the data dynamics backstage. The moment the show started broadcasting, its peak popularity immediately increased explosively. Even though Feng Shui's fans had clamored to not watch the show and not contribute to the show's traffic during the official announcement yesterday, the current figures were not much different from before the show stopped broadcasting. In fact, there was even a slight trend of increasing. Only when Siyu joined the production team would there be such an explosive increase in viewership. Everyone in the program crew was grinning from ear to ear, unable to contain their joy. This variety show had not been going smoothly from the start. During this period, there had been ups and downs, and it had even been stopped broadcasting. But who knew if it was a blessing in disguise? Their show was destined to be a hit. It couldn't be stopped. The villagers' enthusiasm for the production crew was reignited. When they heard that Wenwen was going to film the show, they all followed behind and prepared to see how Wenwen would film the show. The production crew didn't have any requirements for Siyu and Wenwen's team. The mission cards were super simple. They had to ask Wenwen to go to the Dong family's house to borrow rice and vegetables from the Shi family's house. Then, Siyu would cook lunch for the two of them. They didn't expect it to be such a simple task. The audience watched with relish. The popularity of the live broadcast room was still steadily increasing. Wenwen thought about his own character. As a smart and sensible child, he would be considerate of the adults and help them as much as he could. The production crew only gave him a cabbage and asked him to use this cabbage to exchange for a carrot from the Shi family's second uncle, an egg from the Dong family's Grandma Lin, and a pig bone from the village's butcher. How could he use this cabbage to exchange for the requested items? This time, he would have to display his intelligence and wisdom. Wenwen expressed that this was a small matter. He would first use the cabbage to exchange for 4 eggs, then use 1 egg to exchange for 2 carrots, and then use 2 eggs to exchange for a pig bone. Wenwen told Siyu his idea seriously. Siyu expressed that he was really smart. Wenwen tried hard to keep the corners of his lips raised. Yes, I have to be steady. I can't be arrogant. I just have to silently praise myself for being quick-witted. Siyu carried the basket. Wenwen was considerate and wanted to help. However, with his small body, he couldn't carry both sides of the basket. He could only use his small hands to support the bottom of the basket. He was very familiar with the river village. He directly brought Siyu to Grandma Lin's house. When they reached their destination, Wenwen knocked on the door and said cutely, "Grandma Lin, can I use this cabbage to exchange for 3 eggs?" Grandma Lin responded kindly, "Sure, Wenwen, wait." Grandma Lin walked steadily into the house and came out with a basket in a short while. Wenwen carried the cabbage. This cabbage was very heavy, and Wenwen had a hard time carrying it. Then, he passed it to Grandma Lin. Grandma Lin took the cabbage and put it aside. Then, she lifted the cloth on the basket, revealing round and delightful eggs. Wenwen carried the basket and looked up at Grandma Lin expectantly. Grandma Lin grabbed the eggs in 2 hands and quickly placed them on Wenwen's basket. In the blink of an eye, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 eggs. These are purebred free-range eggs. Take them back and let your mother stew them for you. They're very fragrant. Wenwen hurriedly refused. "That's enough, Grandma Lin. I only want 3. How can 3 be enough for a glutton like you? Take more. Grandma has a lot at home." Grandma Lin wanted to take more. Wenwen had already placed the basket gently on the ground. Then, he grabbed one in each hand and put it back. With a serious face, he said, "Grandma Lin, I'm filming a show. I've calculated that I only need 3. "Oh." Grandma Lin remembered and nodded. "I understand. I know. I have to cooperate with you, right? All right, I'll only give you 3. As she spoke, Grandma Lin even blinked. Wenwen nodded. Grandma Lin asked softly, "Wenwen, why did you think of filming a show?" Will you be a big star in the future? I'm not a star yet. Chiwen puffed up his chubby face and said in a serious voice, I want to earn money to buy cosmetics and skincare products for Mom. After being reminded by Sister Xiaoyu, Wenwen also thought of this serious problem. He could talk about earning money and saving capital in the future. The most important thing now was to buy skincare products for his mother. She doesn't know how to dress up and maintain her looks. Wenwen expected better from her. He always remembered that more than 20 years later, if that Feng Shui still maintained her looks like a 30-year-old woman, his mother could not lose to her. Of course, even if she did not maintain her looks, his mother would still be the most beautiful woman. If she only maintained her looks, wouldn't she crush her opponent even more? They thought that they were whispering, but in fact, it had already been recorded in the live stream. The audience also heard it and became even more excited. My child, how can he be so cute? This is my child. Sob, sob, sob. Mama is so happy. I'm suffocated by his cuteness. I also want to have a son who will buy cosmetics for me. Please give me a dozen such sons. Thank you. Trying to trick me into having children again. Wenwen's basket was only left with 3 eggs. The first mission was considered completed. He wiped his sweat. It was really not easy. Then, he lifted the basket and showed it to Siyu. I've completed the mission. Siyu gave him a thumbs up. Wenwen, you're awesome. Wenwen almost laughed out loud. Fortunately, she remembered that she had to maintain a stable image. She quickly pursed her lips, but her big eyes curved into crescents. Next, it was time to go to the second place. Wenwen also knew where the second uncle's house was. She led Siyu through the alleys and small paths, then walked to the second uncle's house. He explained the purpose of his visit to the second uncle and especially emphasized that he only wanted 3 carrots. There was a harmless accident just now, but it definitely wouldn't happen this time. The second uncle was originally sitting on the doorstep smoking a pipe. When he saw Wenwen coming over, he smiled and put out the cigarette. You want carrots? Sure, the vegetable garden is over there. You can pluck whichever one you like. Thank you, second uncle. Wenwen gave an egg to the second uncle. Then, she entered the vegetable garden with Siyu and found the carrots. The second uncle's house had already plucked a lot of carrots to eat. The carrot sprouts in the vegetable garden were slightly sparse. Siyu was about to pluck the carrots. Wenwen sensibly said, Uncle Yu, let me pluck them. Wenwen thought that since he was so sensible and considerate, the audience should like him very much, right? Siyu raised his eyebrows, straightened his body, and nodded. Okay. Wenwen looked around carefully and found 3 carrots that were obviously larger. Then, she stood in front of one of the carrots. She grabbed the sprouts with both hands and tried her best to pull them up. An orange-red carrot appeared in mid-air. Wenwen smiled happily and looked at Siyu. After receiving a look of approval, she excitedly plucked the second one. He plucked. He plucked. Why isn't it moving? Wenwen plucked for a while. She used all her strength and her face turned red. Wenwen suddenly fell upside down. Her small body leaned back and she fell on her butt. Her 2 feet were facing the sky, and her hands were still holding onto the carrot that she had worked so hard to pluck. Chapter 54. Wenwen's little eyes were in a daze. He didn't realize what had happened for a long time. It was only when Siyu helped him up that he realized he had fallen. Wenwen's face turned red. He was so embarrassed. Wenwen looked up at Siyu with uncertainty. He seemed to have heard mocking laughter. Did he hear wrongly? Wenwen turned his head to look for Fu Yunruo's position and saw a familiar figure not far away, smiling at him. Siyu looked serious as he gently patted the dust off Wenwen's body. Are you hurt? Wenwen shook his head and explained seriously, it was an accident. I don't usually fall. It was just a small mistake. His image was still very mature. Yes, I believe you. Siyu nodded seriously. Wenwen heaved a sigh of relief. If Uncle Yu believed him, then the audience would believe him too. His image was saved. Which carrot do you want to pull? Let's do it together. Wenwen pointed at the carrot he wanted. He was afraid that he would lose his balance again, so he let Siyu pull it out. Second Uncle Yu walked over with his hands behind his back. When he saw that they had only pulled out 3 carrots, he said, pull out a few more. No one will eat them if they are left in the field. They will be old after a long time. As he spoke, he walked to the vegetable field and prepared to pull out more carrots, when Win's eyes widened. Uncle Yu. See you placed the 3 carrots neatly and scooped up Wen. He strode out with his long legs. Second Uncle Yu. We have something to do. We'll leave first. Wen hung in Si Yu's arms with his but facing forward and his head facing backward. He looked up and waved at Second Uncle Yu. Second Uncle Yu, I'll come and play with you when I'm free. After leaving Second Uncle Yu's house, they went to the pork shop in the village. Wen sat on Si Yu's shoulder and said solemnly, what happened just now was an accident. It won't happen again. Yes, I believe you. Si Yu's voice contained a hint of a smile. After walking for a while, Wen said, Uncle Yu, put me down. He had walked for a long time since the morning and his feet were tired. But as a mature and steady child, he couldn't let the adults get tired, so after a while, he had to get down from the ground and walk on his own. Si Yu did not refuse and put Wen down. After walking for a while, a few children emerged from the alley. When they saw so many people around Wen, they shrank their necks. However, he still mustered up his courage and shouted at Wen, come quickly. Great-grandma will make cold cakes. The adults were worried that the children would disturb the filming of the show, so they repeatedly ordered them not to get close to Wen for 3 days. They had to wait for the strangers to leave before they could find Wen to play. In order to keep an eye on this group of naughty children, she specially invited the oldest woman in the village, who was 90 years old, to make her best cold cakes, which were the children's favorite. But were they the kind of people who ate alone? The children were kept in the village's great-grandmother's house, so they slipped out under the adults' watchful eyes to find Wen and ask him to hurry over. Great-grandma's cold cakes? Wen's ears perked up. Great-grandma was a cook in a rich family when she was young. She was good at making pastries, but now that she was older, she rarely made them. Although she was still eye-catching now, she was old after all. In recent years, she would only occasionally make the easiest cold cakes to make. Wen was lucky enough to eat 2 pieces last year. He could still remember the taste. No one else could make it that way. Great-grandma's cold cakes. Wen swallowed his saliva. His eyes sparkled as he ran happily to his friends. See you, who was suddenly forgotten. The children seemed to have forgotten that they were filming a show. The cameraman's assistant was laughing so hard that he almost passed out. The audience in the live broadcast room was also laughing like crazy. Siyu was so pitiful. He was abandoned, haha. Where did this clown come from? He was so funny. The cameraman chased after him. When one had already mixed with his friends, they squatted in a row outside the great-grandmother's kitchen and anxiously looked inside. Wen's heart and eyes were occupied by the cold cakes. Like the other children, he swallowed his saliva from time to time. Wen had only eaten it once. Because it was so delicious, when he finished 2 pieces and wanted more, the great-grandmother had already distributed them. He didn't leave a piece for his mother. This was because he had been thinking about it for a long time. This time, he definitely wouldn't eat it alone. He wanted to share it with his mother. The cameraman didn't get too close, and Siyu didn't disturb him. Instead, he chatted with the audience in the live broadcast room. When a hunchbacked old woman walked out of the kitchen, she saw the children at the door and smiled kindly. Great-grandma made a lot this time. Everyone can have 3 pieces. Her granddaughter-in-law was helping in the kitchen. She was old and didn't know if she would have another chance to make pastries in the future. This time, she would make more and let the children eat more. Thank you, Great-grandma. Great-grandma has worked hard. The children were so happy that they jumped on the spot, thinking about how to eat. When one was also thinking, if there were 3 pieces, he and his mother would each have half a piece. Divided 3 times, it would be equivalent to him and his mother eating 3 times. They would eat a lot and feel much better. He was really a quick-witted child. The children waited for half an hour and stood in a row to receive 3 pieces of cold cakes. He was the only one who received the biggest piece of cold cake. When one was so happy that his eyes couldn't be seen. Then, he ran to Fu Yun Ruo with the cold cakes. Mom, delicious cold cakes. Fu Yun Ruo smiled. Yes, have you thanked Great-grandma? Yes. Wen took out a piece and stuffed it into Fu Yun Ruo's mouth. As he stuffed it, He swallowed his saliva. Mom, eat first. It's so delicious. Fu Yunruo didn't refuse to share with her child. She took a small bite. It's so delicious. Wenwen smiled and said happily, Mom, eat half. I'll eat the other half. Hence, Fu Yunruo took 2 small bites. Okay, Mom has eaten half. Wenwen looked at the large piece of pastry in his hand. His mother was coaxing him. He continued to hold it up. It's not half. Okay. It wasn't until Wenwen felt that his mother had eaten half that he leaned against Fu Yunruo and ate in satisfaction. This was the taste. It was too delicious. Wenwen finished the half piece in his hand and still wanted more. Do you still want to eat? Fu Yunruo asked. No, I'll eat it later, Wenwen said reluctantly. Good things should be enjoyed slowly. 3 pleasures were better than 1. Then Mom will keep it for you first. You can continue filming the program. Filming the program? Wenwen was thunderstruck. His small body froze. He suddenly remembered that he was filming a program earlier. Wenwen turned his head and looked around. He saw Siyu standing not far away. He had his arms crossed and was leaning against a tree trunk while looking at him. His expression seemed to say, let's see when you can remember. Noticing Wenwen's gaze, Siyu walked over with his long legs. Seeing this, Fu Yunruo stepped back to let them continue filming the program. Wenwen squatted down and looked down at the bare yellow ground. His small back view was bleak and extremely desolate. What's the matter? Siyu walked over and squatted down to ask. Wenwen's eyes were filled with tears. I want to be a smart and sensible child. But it failed. Wenwen thought about how after filming the program, things kept happening. He was very sad. This time, he could not attract any fans. How could he have forgotten about his character setting while doing it? The audience would definitely think that he was a gluttonous, lazy, and playful child. Siyu patted his head and comforted him. You're already very smart and sensible. 3 or 4-year-old children were at the peak of their energy. It was normal for them to not let go. They came up with ideas. It was normal for a goldfish to lose 3 seconds of memory occasionally. Uncle you don't have to comfort me. I'm very strong. Wenwen held back his tears. Uncle Yu was just comforting him. It was okay. It was only the first day. He still had 2 days to redeem his character. Lol, this program is actually called Movie King's Daily Life. Siyu will definitely be a good father in the future. Ha 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 ha. Isn't this too unfair? We're both children. Why are you so cute? Fu Yunruo looked at the scene and did not forget to enter the live stream to look at the comments on the screen. They were all fancy praises for Zai Zai and other normal comments. There was not a single negative comment. Her eyebrows relaxed. The situation was not as bad as she thought. Fu Yunruo thought of the contract she signed with the program team. When Yuan Xian negotiated with the program team, he had clearly stated the program team's obligations. One of them was that there could not be any negative information about Wenwen in the live stream or the comments on the program team's official account. After all, the child was still too young. He could not bear the unwarranted abuse and malice at such a young age. Most of the audience were rational. They were mainly wary of Feng Shuiruo's group of brainless fans. As for the social media platforms outside the program team, Apple Entertainment's public relations department took action, and the marketing accounts all ceased their activities. Regardless of whether it was because of this reason or not, Fu Yunruo would be quite happy if she did not see anyone talking bad about her child. She looked at Wenwen in the camera. She had to admit that he was born with a good sense for the camera. He really had no blind spots from 365 degrees and was very likable. When Fu Yunruo saw that Wenwen was having a good time, she could not help but smile. She had never seen how others recorded a program before, but now that she saw it, wasn't it similar to playing? It seemed that the program team was quite humane. Previously, she did not like this program team because of Feng Shuiruo. She had misunderstood. Her phone vibrated. Fu Yunruo looked down and saw that it was a call from Tanyan. She looked at Wenwen, who was talking to Siyu. She walked a little further away and picked up the call. Tian, Ruo, I found a female bodyguard. Fu Yunruo's eyes lit up. Really? That's great. There's only one, but don't worry. This is a really powerful person. You'll know when you see her. She definitely won't let you down. I'm on my way to your place. We'll meet tomorrow morning. Okay, thank you for your hard work. Fu Yunrua looked at Siyu and could not help but touch her face. The hired bodyguard was coming. Siyu could leave successfully, when one would not have any objections. But how should she bring it up? No matter how she said it, it felt like she was burning the bridge after crossing it. But the bodyguard would be coming tomorrow. If she stuck her head out, she would also be stabbed. Fu Yunrua decided that she would find an opportunity to talk to Siyu about this at night. The program went smoothly. Although there were many small accidents, the overall situation was very good. At 5:00 in the afternoon, their group finished filming. Mom, how was my filming? Wenwen ran over happily, her little face glowing. Wenwen, you're awesome. You're so good. Fu Yunrua praised. Wenwen was even happier when she heard that. She raised her head proudly. He hugged Fu Yunrua's thigh and said coquettishly, Mom, hug me. Although he could see his mother when he looked up, he could not stay by her side. He felt that he had not been close to his mother for a long time. Fu Yunrua carried Wenwen and walked home. Siyu was still talking to the program team. The mother and son left first. Although it looked like they were playing, it was still very tiring. Fu Yunrua's heart ached for her child. Chapter 55. Wenwen was abnormally excited, chattering nonstop all the way, as if he had endless things to say. Fu Yunrua kept watching. Listening to the person involved was another form of enjoyment. Hearing Ming Ming's voice, her heart also softened. When they reached home, Wenwen was still following Fu Yunrua around like a little tail. Fu Yunrua gave him some water and then went to the kitchen to cook. Are you hungry? Do you want to eat a piece of cake? In the village, Fu Yunrua was very assured of Wenwen. She took the time to go home, put the cold cake on a plate, and cooled it with cold water before returning the bowl to the grandmother's house. When Fu Yunrua came to the grandmother's house, she was stuffed with a packet of cake wrapped in oil paper. Because the grandmother was old, the villagers would not disturb her because of this. If the children went, they would not say anything. Moreover, the children were also sensible. They would only swarm over when the grandmother took the initiative to make it. The adults did not have the fortune to eat it. No matter how much they made, the children would not be able to eat it. Fu Yunrua did not expect that she would have more. Fu Yunrua refused for a while, but could not refuse. Thinking that Wenwen liked to eat it so much, she finally accepted it shamelessly. Fu Yunrua had not told Wenwen about this matter yet. Therefore, when Wenwen saw Fu Yunrua take out the plate and saw the 2 pieces of cake on it, she cherished it very much. Then, eat 1 piece first. The last piece was to be eaten before bed. Eating sweet cold cake before bed, she could have a good dream at night. Wenwen broke it into 2 halves and compared it. Then, he gave the big piece to Fu Yunrua. Mom! Fu Yunrua thought that there was still more and that the cold cake could not be kept for long, so she did not refuse. Eat the other piece too. Wenwen was reluctant, but he was hungry. The more he ate, the hungrier he got. Fu Yunrua said casually, You have to share it with Uncle Yu. She thought that since Siyu treated Wenwen so well, it was only right for him to return the favor. However, Wenwen thought that Fu Yun was talking about sharing the piece in his hand. He was very reluctant. It was the last piece, and he had not eaten enough. He rolled his eyes. If he finished it before Uncle Yu came back, wouldn't there be no need to divide it? But Uncle Yu treated him so well. Wouldn't he be too stingy if he didn't differentiate? Wenwen thought for a moment. He first broke it in half, then broke the other half in half. After thinking for a while, he broke off a small piece. The pastries on the plate were divided into several pieces of distinct sizes. Wenwen moved the smallest one to the side, and the rest belonged to him and his mother. This piece is for Uncle Yu. He pointed to a small piece on the side. If Fu Yun did not notice, she, who was picking vegetables, responded without raising her head when she heard Wenwen's voice. Siyu, who had just stepped into the house, paused. What did he hear? His gaze shifted to the pastry that Wenwen was pointing at. It was not even the size of a fingernail. When Wenwen saw Siyu, he quickly retracted his hand and said cutely, Uncle Yu, you're back? Fu Yunruo put the vegetables that she had chosen into the sink, looked up, and walked into the living room. She saw the plate in front of Wenwen. The pastries were crushed piece by piece. Thinking of what he said just now, she could not help but say, "You child, you crushed the pastries so much. How are we going to eat them?" Fu Yunruo took out the pastries wrapped in oil paper from the fridge. "Great-grandmother secretly gave us a packet and left a few pieces for you to eat tomorrow. The rest will be shared tonight." It was summer, and food could not be stored for too long. Otherwise, it would not be fresh. These were enough for Wenwen to satisfy his craving. When Wenwen saw the oil paper packet, her eyes lit up. She jumped down from the stool and ran over. Wow! The temperature of the upper floor of the fridge was not very low. It was only used to preserve freshness. If Fu Yun removed the oil paper from the table for a while, the temperature would return to normal. Wenwen leaned on the table and counted. There were a total of 16 pieces. It was a lot. Wenwen moved the plate in front of her and pointed at the oil paper packet on the table. She said generously, "Uncle you can eat it. It's delicious." "See you." Ha! Don't think that he did not know that he only had a small position in Wenwen's heart. He had seen through it. See, you picked up a piece. Wenwen looked at him with sparkling eyes. "Is it delicious? Is it delicious?" Siyu was surprised. He had eaten countless delicacies since he was young. He did not expect to be able to eat such delicious and unique pastries in this mountainous area. It seemed that this mountainous area was full of hidden talents. Siyu nodded. "Not bad." Wenwen looked as if he had been praised and raised his head proudly. Then, he ate the pastries on the plate in small bites. Dinner time was lively. Fu Yun saw that Wenwen's head was nodding like a chick pecking at rice not long after he finished eating. She carried him back to the room to sleep. Lying on the bed, Wenwen did not seem to be sleepy anymore. He rolled around on the bed. Fu Yun hugged him and took out her phone. "Come, Mommy will read to you how the brothers, sisters, uncles, and aunties on the internet praised the baby." Wenwen stopped rolling and buried himself in Fu Yun's arms like an ostrich. After a while, he quietly revealed his eyes and asked carefully, "Are they all praises? Were they not scolding him?" Actually, it did not matter if he was scolded. He did not care at all. Wenwen knew that he did not perform well. He had not established his image yet. He was so clumsy. He could accept it. Fu Yun looked at Wenwen's expression and felt a little heartache. It seemed that Wenwen cared a lot about what others thought of him. Of course, Mommy took a lot of screenshots. They are all praises for the baby. Mommy will read it to you. Wenwen was bashful for a while. Then, he shifted his small body and leaned his head on Fu Yun's shoulder. He mustered his courage to look at the screen. Mommy took a lot of screenshots. Look, they are so dense that I can't see them clearly. Let's watch them together after the live broadcast is uploaded online. Then, Fu Yun read it to Wenwen and pointed it out to him. This comment. Zai Zai is really smart, innocent, lively, and cute. Zai Zai is a baby. And these. Many people want babies like Bao Bao. Fu Yun read a lot of comments. Then, she said, the baby hasn't started school yet. There are many words that he can't recognize. When the baby starts school, he will understand everyone's love for you. Wenwen's eyes stared at the phone screen. He did not say that he could understand it. He could not read all the comments, but he could see that they were all praises. There were even fewer comments about Siyu than there were about him. The straightforward and unreserved love seemed to pass through the screen and surround him. His heart felt warm. How nice! Wenwen's eyes were moist. Tears flowed out of the corners of his eyes. However, he was careful not to let Fu Yun see it. After a while, he said coquettishly, "Mommy, read it to me again." Okay. Fu Yun kept reading the comments. Her shoulders were heavy. She looked down and saw that Wenwen had fallen asleep leaning on her. His small hands were grabbing her clothes. He was very attached to her. His little chubby face was red and the corners of his lips were curled up. It was as if he was having a beautiful dream. Fu Yun kissed his forehead. "Good night, baby." Fu Yun waited for Wenwen to fall asleep before she carefully got up and walked out of the room. It was not even 10 o'clock yet. Siyu was still awake. Fu Yun walked out and saw Siyu sitting in the courtyard. He was typing on his phone with his head lowered. When he saw Fu Yun coming out, he put away his phone and lowered his voice. "Are you asleep?" Fu Yun nodded. She moved a chair and sat not far away from Siyu. She thought about what she wanted to say, but she found it hard to say it. Siyu saw that she was hesitating and took the initiative to ask, "What's the matter?" Fu Yun said hesitantly, "It's like this. Tian helped me find a female bodyguard. She said that she will be here tomorrow." Siyu nodded and said understandingly, "I will move out when the time comes. It's not very convenient for me to be here, but we have to wait until you see that there is no problem with the bodyguard." Fu Yun saw that he was so straightforward and did not seem to have any grudges. She heaved a sigh of relief. "Okay, after we meet tomorrow, thank you for taking care of one these days." "It's my pleasure. Then I won't disturb you." After chatting for a while, Fu Yun stood up and said goodbye. Siyu replied, "Good night." "Good night. You should rest early too." Fu Yun put down her worries and went to sleep without any burden. She had a good night's sleep. On the second day of filming, Wenwen seemed to have some experience and was more relaxed than yesterday. The production team looked at the high popularity and could not stop smiling. They had finally made the right move for once. At around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tian and the female bodyguard arrived. After Fu Yun asked Yuan Xian to watch over them, she went to receive the guests. Fu Yun looked at Tian and a baby-faced girl who was about 1.6 meters tall with short hair. Countless questions popped up in her heart. This was a female bodyguard? If she walked out and said that she was a minor who had just entered high school, people would believe her. Tian said, "Don't think that Shengnan is young just because she looks like this. You can't judge a book by its cover. She's 2 years older than you, and she's very impressive." Shengnan patted her flat chest and said cheerfully, "Boss, it's right to have your concerns. Because of my face, many employers don't believe me, but please give me a chance to show off." She glanced around and picked up a stone by the flower bed not far away. Then, she ran forward and leaped into the air. She spun around and kicked the stone that had fallen into the air with precision. The extremely hard stone shattered into a few pieces and fell to the ground, scattering in all directions. Fu Yun was stunned. Her first thought was that there were martial arts experts in this world. Shengnan glanced at the eaves and picked up a thick piece of firewood. It seemed that she wanted to continue showing off. Fu Yun quickly stopped her. "No need. It's fine, it's fine." She couldn't help but look down at her feet. She hissed, "Didn't it hurt to break such a hard stone?" She was full of admiration. At this moment, she looked at Shengnan with great respect. "Boss, you believe me?" Shengnan asked happily. "You don't have to call me boss." Fu Yun waved her hand. Shengnan was instantly disappointed. "Just call me Roro or Yunru." Shengnnan's eyes lit up. "You've agreed to hire me?" Fu Yun nodded and smiled. "Please take care of me in the future. I'll work hard." Shengnan was overjoyed. Because her face made people feel insecure, her work had not been smooth. She didn't expect to succeed this time. The group went to the living room. Fu Yun told her about the benefits, but no matter what she said, Shengnan nodded. This pure and harmless appearance made Fu Yun selectively forget about her martial prowess. Fu Yun thought to herself that such a simple-minded child would be bullied to death by an unscrupulous client. "You can stay by my side in the name of my assistant. Don't worry, the studio will give you an additional salary as an assistant." After all, this was a small place. If she explained to others that she was a bodyguard, others would think that she was a weirdo. It was much more convenient to have the identity of an assistant. When Shengnan heard that, she actually had a double salary. She shook her head repeatedly. The treatment just now was already very good. It's enough. Her salary was paid by the studio. Her salary was already comparable to every job she had done before. There were also all kinds of insurance benefits. It was already very good. Fu Yun said, "You naturally have to receive double salary for doing 2 jobs. It just so happens that I also need an assistant. With you around, I don't have to look for one anymore." Just as Fu Yun finished speaking, she thought of something important. Then, she asked worriedly, "By the way, it can't be that every plant you raise will die, right? In the past, She thought that there might not be 1 in 10,000 people who would die. But now, she had already met 2 people. What if there was another one? Qian Shengnan tilted her head. Although she didn't understand, she still said honestly, I used to plant vegetables. They grew very well. When I was young, I participated in Arbor Day in school. The trees that I planted all came alive and were very lush. When Fu Yun heard that, she was relieved. If she could plant vegetables and trees, then she wouldn't be a plant killer. Chapter 56. There was still an empty room in the old house. The 3 of them cleaned it up together and quickly cleaned it up. In the morning, as a precaution, Fu Yun asked the villagers in town to help bring back 2 sets of mattresses and quilts. When they came back in the afternoon, they took advantage of Wan Wen's afternoon nap to unpack and wash them. They could use them at night. Fu Yun considered that they were tired from the journey and wanted to let them rest at home, but they said that they were not tired. Tian knew that when Wan was filming a show and couldn't wait. I haven't seen the little cutie in a long time. In the end, Fu Yun brought the 2 of them to the scene. On the way, they met a villager and saw 2 young and beautiful girls. He even asked Fu Yun curiously, Ruruo, who are these 2? They're my friends. They came here specially to see me. Fu Yun and the others greeted them along the way, then found the production crew and watched from afar. Fu Yun looked at Wan for a while. They were playing in the river in the village openly. The children were so happy that they were giggling like little ducks. She introduced Yuan Xian and the 2 of them to each other. Tian had heard a little about Yuan Xian and originally respected him as a senior. However, because of Wan, the 2 of them felt like old friends at first sight and had a lot in common. They quickly improved their friendship and flattered Wan together. Qian Shengnan looked around warily. Fu Yun saw this and told her to relax. We're very safe in the village. We won't encounter any accidents. Actually, she found bodyguards to reassure herself and Wan. They wouldn't encounter any danger in the village. No one would be so crazy. Moreover, that group of people only stayed in town for 2 days. They heard that there was an accident in one of the Fu Corporation's projects, and he needed to personally deal with it, so they left in a hurry. News spread quickly in the town. They had only left for less than 10 minutes when this matter reached Fu Yun's ears. When she heard the news, she heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, she could have some peace for a while, so she didn't have to worry about them coming again. Qian Shengnan nodded and seemed to relax, but her eyes swept around from time to time. After the intermission, Wan ran over. There were still water droplets or sweat on his face. Fu Yun wiped them off for him. Wan remembered her mother's business partner and called out sweetly, Sister Da. She replied with a sweet smile, Hello, Wan? When Wan looked at the other beautiful big sister who had never seen the big boss before, her eyes were filled with confusion. Fu Yun introduced her to him. This is Sister Qian Shengnan. Then she said in a low voice, She's also our family's bodyguard. She's amazing. When Wen's eyes darted around. After sizing her up for a while, she cutely called her Sister Shengnan. Qian Shengnan was at a loss when she saw such a cute and clever child. She responded with a stiff expression. Yuan Xian took out a cute sky-blue water bottle. Come, Wan, have some water. A few adults surrounded Wan and completely ignored Siyu, who was walking over. Fu Yun inadvertently saw this and felt that with his status, he would be the center of attention wherever he went. At this moment, he was being ignored because of Wan. She felt quite embarrassed. Thus, she poured him a glass of water and handed him a packet of tissue to wipe his sweat. Then she especially softly explained Qian Shengnan's identity to Siyu. Siyu's expression was normal as he nodded to show that he understood. At night, the house was lively. Aunt May and Uncle May knew that Fu Yun would have guests over, so they specially slaughtered chickens and ducks. When Fu Yun returned in the evening, they cooked a sumptuous dinner together. Even Yuan Xian had dinner at the Fu family's house before leaving. Siyu packed his luggage and prepared to move to the May residence. Aunt May knew about Qian Shengnan's other identity and also knew that Siyu wouldn't be staying here anymore. Thus, she also packed her things and prepared to move home. Tian had just found out that Siyu was staying here and was shocked for a long time. She looked at Fu Yun and hesitated to speak. In the end, she couldn't hold it in and pulled Fu Yun out to have a private talk. Why is Mr. Siyu staying at your house? Fu Yun Ruo told Tian everything that had happened. Tian couldn't help but say, Ruoruo, I don't want to nag at you, but you're really too careless. Aren't you afraid that he has ulterior motives? Fu Yun laughed and said, I know what you mean, but that's impossible. He's only fooling around on account of Wenwan. Moreover, Aunt May is also here. It wasn't that Fu Yun belittled herself. He was a famous and influential superstar with many beautiful women around him. Why would he fancy a woman who had a child out of wedlock? Moreover, she didn't feel that he was wooing her. She wasn't that slow, right? It was because when one was loved by everyone that she indulged him in fooling around. You're so outstanding. Those who dare to despise you are not worthy of you. Although that was what she said, it was undeniable that Siyu was more outstanding. There were many talented and beautiful women around him. No matter how good Fu Yun was, the fact that she had a child out of wedlock was enough to make many people hesitate and be prejudiced. But everyone in the entertainment industry knows that Mr. Siyu pays attention to his interactions with the opposite sex outside of acting. He doesn't have any ambiguous relationships. Tiantian's knowledge of Siyu was based on hearsay. However, he was indeed one of the few male celebrities in the industry who had a clean private life. This was the first time Tian knew that Siyu would take the initiative to stay under the same roof with a young and beautiful woman. She couldn't help but think about it. Wasn't Ruoruo confused by the situation? Fu Yun was also suspicious after hearing Tiantian's words. Could it be that Siyu was really interested in her? But it didn't seem like it. She really didn't feel that he was wooing her. Or was his wooing so reserved? With this question in mind, Fu Yun and Tian returned to the courtyard. Wenwan was talking to Siyu reluctantly. Wenwan couldn't bear to part with Siyu, but it was written in the agreement that she could only reluctantly send him off. Fu Yun saw that Siyu left so decisively, and the suspicion that had just arisen dissipated. If Siyu really liked her, shouldn't he be thinking of ways to make her stay? As expected, Tian was thinking too much. She was thinking, how could Mr. Yu like her? She was still thinking that if it was really her, how could she reject him without hurting him so much? She almost caused a misunderstanding. At night, Fu Yun read the comments on the bullet screen to Wenwan as usual to coax him to sleep. Suddenly, she realized that on the screen, there were many comments saying that Wenwan and Siyu looked alike. They were simply replicas of Siyu. They were just like little Siyu. Fu Yun had taken the screenshots casually today and didn't pay attention to the comments on the screen. Now that she noticed them, she suddenly felt as if she could see them everywhere. Fu Yun thought to herself, how did Wenwan look like Siyu? They were clearly replicas of her. Siyu had nothing to do with Wenwan. How could they look alike? Wenwan also saw such comments. He saw more than one person saying that he was little Siyu. He felt very nervous and uneasy. Could it be that he had unknowingly brought over the habits that he had learned in his previous life? In his previous life, to train his acting skills, he had looked for Siyu's movies and TV shows to imitate. Later on, to become famous, he had used the title of Little Siyu to become popular. He always knew that Siyu's fans didn't like people trying to ride on Siyu's popularity. The haters also used this to mock him. He looked at the comments nervously. In this life, he didn't want to ride on his popularity, but the audience was saying that he was a child's version of Siyu. Was it little Siyu? Wenwan felt very uncomfortable when he thought that the audience who had been so friendly to him might change their attitude. He saw that his mother was in a daze and didn't move for a long time. He took the initiative to swipe the screen. He thought that he would be mocked and scolded, but along the way, other than those who expressed their love for him and discussed the program, many people agreed with the title Little Siyu. Many people even used Little Siyu to make fun of him. He saw that the netizens' attitudes were completely different from his previous life. Wenwan started to doubt his life. Could it be that all the negative comments had been removed? Or did his mother only take screenshots of the positive comments? Fu Yun Ruo was affected by Tiantian's words and felt a little embarrassed when she saw such comments. Children naturally like to imitate adults. Siyu was one of the adults that Wenwan liked, so it was normal for her to unconsciously imitate his words and actions. Was that why the audience felt that they were similar? She continued to read the comments as if nothing had happened. Anyway, Wenwan didn't know many words, so she wouldn't know if she skipped them. Feng Shui Ruo sat in front of the computer and watched the live broadcast turn off. The screen darkened, and her eyes flickered. She went to the comments on the internet and saw that Fu Yunruo and her son's reputation had spread far and wide. Their fans had skyrocketed, and her fingers were pinched so hard that a few red marks appeared on them. She called her manager. "Sister One, do you have any work to do recently? I'm a little bored at home, so I can take a walk." Sister Wen's eyelids twitched. She braced herself and said, "There's a cosmetics company that wants you to endorse." "Which company?" Feng Shui Ruo said casually. This was an internationally renowned cosmetics brand. Previously, her studio had contacted the person in charge of the Asian region, and the other party obviously had the same intention. "No, it's Oi." Crack. Feng Shui Ruo broke a bamboo stick. "What did you say?" Sister Wen heard her cold voice and shuddered, but she still said, "It's Oi." There was only a difference of one letter, but the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Oi was a brand in the country, but it wasn't even considered a well-known brand. There was even a nasty incident where the use of its cosmetics caused disfigurement, and it was ordered to stop business. After that, it was rectified and reopened, but it was no longer trusted by the consumers in the market. How could such a nameless brand with a ruined reputation have the guts to ask her to endorse it? Feng Shui Ruo said coldly, "Sister One, I asked you to be my manager because I trusted your ability. In the end, you can only find me such lousy endorsements?" Sister One was miserable. Ever since Feng Shui's reputation collapsed, her days of flaunting her fame were over. Her artist was rejected by all the major brands, and those who cared about reputation were not willing to work with an artist who had a tainted reputation. Even if she had the face of Orange Entertainment, the Chang family, and the Fu family, it was useless. Which brand would take this risk? Unless she endorsed the brands under the Fu family and the Chang family, she could only get such lousy endorsements. She was afraid that these days would only come to an end after this storm completely passed. But Sister Wen didn't dare to say anything. She lowered her voice and said, "I'll look again." Sister Wen hung up the phone, her face dark. Where was she going to find good resources? In the past, she didn't need to look for resources. Good resources were automatically sent to her door for her to choose. Now, not only were they rejected for endorsements and advertisements, but they were also rejected for good film and television series. Those who approached Feng Shui Ruo were third-rate film crews. They wanted to ride on Feng Shui Ruo's fame, even if they were blacklisted. If this continued for a long time, Feng Shui Ruo would be completely forgotten. Outdated artists in the entertainment industry were forgotten very quickly, unless Orange Entertainment was tailor-made for her. Chapter 57. 3 days of filming for the show passed very quickly. The production team had just finished filming and held a donation ceremony with the local government. After that, they had a special gathering for a meal. Fu Yunruo considered that Wenwan was still young, so he only brought him to the scene before going back. Siyu sat for a while before leaving and sending them back to the village with the chauffeur. It was inevitably not safe to drive at night, so the speed was slower. Fu Yunruo heard that all the guests and staff of the production team would be leaving the village tomorrow. So he asked, "Mr. Yu, are you leaving tomorrow morning too? With the production team?" Fu Yunruo thought that since they were acquaintances, he would send Siyu off when he left. Wenwan was originally very excited in the car because the director had already settled Wenwan's appearance fee. Wenwan had received his first bucket of gold. He held the card all the way and was so excited that his little face was flushed. After hearing Fu Yunruo's question, he instantly quieted down and couldn't help but look at Siyu. "Uncle Yu, are you leaving?" Wenwan looked at him eagerly. Even though he knew the answer in his heart, he couldn't help but want to confirm it again. Siyu smiled. "Wenwan, can't bear to part with me?" Wenwan awkwardly turned his little head to the side. "I can't bear to part with you." However, he couldn't help but glance at Siyu from the corner of his eyes. "Little guy." Siyu's gaze was gentle as he answered their question. "I'm not going with the production team. I'm going to stay for 2 more days. You won't not welcome me, right?" Wenwan visibly became happy. Fu Yunruo couldn't help but laugh. No. Wenwan was very happy and couldn't wait for him to stay for a few more days. The car stopped by the roadside. Siyu sent Fu Yun Ruo, and one went home before going to the Mei family's house. Tian Tian and Qin Shengnan were surprised to see the two of them return so quickly, but they were very happy. Wen, how was your trip? Were you happy? Happy. Wen could not help but run in front of Fu Yun. She handed the card to Fu Yun and said reservedly, I'll buy you beautiful clothes and cosmetics. All the money he had earned was here. Yes, he could earn a lot more money in the future. Fu Yun was overjoyed. She hugged Wen and kissed her twice. Wen is so amazing. It's great that you can support your mother at such a young age. Wen's little belly stuck out even more. He was grinning from ear to ear. Aya, he could earn money to support his mother. Tian Tian was extremely envious. She also wanted to give birth to such a sensible and considerate baby. If Fu Yun kept the bank card properly, this card would be used to store Wen's money in the future. She could not bear to use it. If Fu Yun asked Yuan Xin to use the production team's name to donate a sum of money to the village, there was also a possibility. Tian Tian also made a trip with Yuan Xin and finally donated the money. Other than that, it was said that Siyu also donated a sum of money in his own name. He hoped that this sum of money would be put to good use. Fu Yun put down a load of worry and was in an extremely good mood. After Wen was happy, she suddenly sighed in disappointment. What's wrong, baby? Wen said dejectedly, Uncle Yu is leaving too. Although he was 2 days late, he would still leave. They had not spent much time together, but he was a little reluctant to part, thinking that they might not have the chance to meet in the future. He was a little sad. Fu Yun saw Wen like this and hugged him. Just as she was about to organize her words to comfort him, Wen perked up and said to Fu Yun, Mom, let's go find Uncle Yu tomorrow and the day after. Okay. The next day, the production team left one after another. Fu Yun specially sent Xian Su off and gave him some local specialties. Xian Su left reluctantly and repeatedly emphasized that they must keep in touch. After that, Fu Yun worked in the flower bed while Wen and Siyu worked outside. The orchids they planted on the roof had already withered, but they did not know who would die first. Hence, the eldest brother did not laugh at the second brother and encouraged each other to plant another orchid. Fu Yun let them be and seriously taught Qian Shengnan to do some simple chores. Yuan Xian sat in the bungalow and calmly gave Tian Tian some pointers on the studio's experience. At night, they returned to the village to spend the night. After 2 days, Siyu and Yuan Xian left. Fu Yun personally sent them off with Wen. Aunt May and Uncle May carried a lot of local specialties and even gave them 2 bags of grains. In a short while, the entire back of the car was filled. It was rare for Wen to be silent. She held Fu Yun's hand and kept her head down. Before getting into the car, Siyu walked in front of Wen and squatted down. Then, he said gently, Wen, aren't you going to say something to Uncle? Wen lowered her head and looked at the ground but did not look at him. Uncle is leaving. Siyu rubbed his little head. Don't cry secretly. I won't. Wen raised his head and retorted. He was already a mature child who could earn money. He would not cry secretly. Yes, Wen is a mature and steady little adult. When we come to the capital in the future, Uncle will take you to the amusement park to play. You said it. If I can't do it, then Uncle will be a puppy. Wen felt awkward for a while, then stretched out her pinky. Pinky swear. Yes, pinky swear. Siyu stood up and looked at Fu Yun, but did not say anything. He only said, take care. Fu Yun also replied, have a safe trip. No matter how reluctant she was, it was time to leave. Siyu hugged Wen and got into the car. Soon, the car started slowly and drove away. Wen looked up and saw the car gradually drive away. He instinctively wanted to chase after it, but he only moved a little and eventually stayed where he was. Fu Yun carried Wen and rubbed the back of his head. She said gently, Wen, if you're sad, just cry. Mommy is here. Wen hugged Fu Yun and held back his tears for a long time. In the end, he could not hold them back and simply burst into tears. He was actually a little sad, just a little sad. It was all because a child's body could not control his emotions. Fu Yun's heart ached when she heard this, but she also heaved a sigh of relief. It was better to be able to cry than to be sad. She did not know if it was the right choice not to stop Wen and Siyu from getting close. Siyu kept looking at the rearview mirror until the group of people behind him gradually became smaller and completely disappeared from his sight. He only looked away after a long time. Yuan Xian said, "If you really can't bear to part with her, why don't you say it openly?" "It's not time yet." Yuan Xian thought about it and understood what Siyu meant. He could not help but click his tongue. What a scheming man. Wasn't he worried that if he said it out loud, Fu Yun would be afraid that he wanted to snatch the child away, or even that she would not go to the capital and continue to stay in the small village to avoid him? He did not know if he should sympathize with Fu Yun if Siyu took a liking to Fu Yun or laugh at Siyu for putting in so much effort for a woman. Siyu closed his eyes and rested for a long time before saying softly, "Soon, Uncle May and Aunt May surrounded Wenwan and coaxed him." However, the more people coaxed, the more Wenwan cried. In the end, Fu Yun coaxed, "Don't cry. We will be going to the capital soon. When the time comes, we can go and play with Uncle Yu." Wenwan stopped crying and looked at Fu Yun with his red eyes. "Ruoruo, have you decided?" Aunt May asked happily. However, when she thought about how there would be fewer opportunities to meet Ruoruo, and when after they left, her happiness turned into a strong reluctance. Uncle May said, "It's good to go to the capital." Then, he entered the house with his hands behind his back. Aunt May sighed and said to Ruoruo, "Don't worry about that old man. It's a good thing that you are going to the big city to develop your career. We are all happy for you." Fu Yun nodded. She was actually not happy. It was good to stay here. There was no competition and the years were peaceful. There was too much reluctance here. But there was always a choice, even though making this decision made her very uncomfortable. Fu Yun looked at the little guy in her arms. She would have to stay outside for at least 10 or 20 years. When she could completely let go, she could return here. She just hoped that by then, things would not change. Fu Yun and Aunt May chatted for a long time before returning to the old house. Wenwen could not help but ask softly, "Mom, are we going to the capital?" "I plan to." Wenwen could not help but jump for joy. Didn't that mean he could see Uncle Yu often? Fu Yun saw how happy he was and did not have the heart to tell him that even if they were in the same city, they might not be able to see each other. Wenwen was happy for a while, but then he thought, wouldn't he have to leave the village? Wouldn't he rarely see Grandpa May, Grandma May, and Grandpa Gua in the future? He would not be able to see his group of underlings anymore? Also, just thinking about it made him sad. The tears that had just fallen welled up. Wenwen cried even more sadly. He did not want to leave them. What's wrong? Fu Yun was confused when she heard Wenwen's sudden crying. Hadn't she already coaxed him? When Fu Yun asked why Wenwen was crying again, "Wenwen, don't cry. Mom will bring you back for the new year every year during the winter holidays. You can even play with your friends then," Fu Yun coaxed for a long time. "And we'll also bring Grandpa Guo with us. He'll come with us." Wenwen sobbed. "Really?" "Yes, but if Grandpa Gua is unwilling to go with us, we'll have to rely on you." Wenwen wiped his tears and nodded. Yes, if Grandpa Gua was also with them, then he would be less sad. Tian brought a basin of warm water over and teased, "Come, come, come." Wipe the little crybaby's face. Wenwen hugged Fu Yun very embarrassedly and buried his face in it. It was so embarrassing. He actually cried again. Fu Yun looked at Tian with a smile. She knew that Wenwen cared about his reputation, but she still exposed him. Tian covered her mouth and snickered. Tian did not stay for 2 days and also left. The house was much quieter. Fortunately, Qin Shengnan was still around. To prevent Wenwen from letting his imagination run wild, Fu Yun asked Shengnan to drive him back to the village to play with his friends every day and come back together at night. With her looking after the child, she felt more at ease. Originally, Fu Yun only told Tian about this matter and asked her to help look out for housing. Since she had already told Uncle May and Aunt May, Fu Yun also told Uncle Gua about her plans. "Uncle Gua, will you go to the capital with me?" Uncle Gua had been frowning. When he heard this, he said in a rough voice, "It's so troublesome. I'm not going." If Fu Yun was mentally prepared, she knew that he would not agree so easily. Fu Yun said with a frown, "When one is about to start studying, the education resources in the big city are better for him. Actually, I don't want to go out either. I'm used to staying here. Moreover, there are those people in the capital. If I'm bullied, no one will help me. Uncle Gua understood who those people were. Hence, his frown deepened, but he still did not agree. Fu Yun did not expect to be able to convince Uncle Gua in a day or two. Anyway, there was still half a year. She quickly skipped this topic and did not mention it. Fu Yun live-streamed continuously for a few days. Some time ago, because of Wen's participation in the show, her popularity had doubled, but her live-streaming time had decreased by a lot. Now, she live-streamed once a day in the morning and evening. It could be considered as compensation for her fans. Fu Yun had just left the live-stream when Tian called. Ruoro, I found a very suitable house. Tian did not stop to introduce the location of the house, the environment of the community, and the surrounding facilities. Really? That's great, Tian. Thank you for your hard work. It's not hard at all. It's what I should do. Ruoro, come and take a look when you're free. It's a rare opportunity. Although it's a second-hand house, it's still very new. If you miss it, it won't be easy to find a place that meets your requirements next time. Yes. I'll go over in the next 2 days. Tian, you have to help me keep it. Fu Yun was extremely happy when she saw the photo that Tian had taken. She had not seen it with her own eyes, but she liked it very much when she saw the photo. It was rare to find a house that she liked, and the price was also within her range of affordability. Fu Yun immediately checked the ticket and planned the route. When she ran here back then, she was in a daze the entire way. She did not remember how she got here at all. Now, it was as if it was her first time taking a ride. That night, Fu Yun told Wen and Shengnan that she was going to the capital early the next morning. Originally, she had thought of going alone. After all, she was worried that Wen would not be able to adapt to the journey. However, Wen insisted on going with her. She cried and acted coquettishly. In the end, she had a headache and had no choice but to agree. Fortunately, Shengnan was with her. Otherwise, she was not sure if she would dare to travel alone with her child. After a long journey, Fu Yun and the other two finally stepped onto the ground of the capital on the morning of the third day. Fu Yun Ruo felt that her feet were light as a feather when she stepped on the ground. Fu Yun Ruo carried Wen and Shengnan as they walked along the crowd. Shengnan was pushing a suitcase with a luggage bag on it. Wen fell asleep on Fu Yun Ruo's shoulder. As soon as they walked out of the exit, Tian, who had been waiting outside, came up to them. It's been a long journey. She quickly took Wen. Fu Yun Ruo was very tired, so she did not refuse. Wen had just changed her position and woke up very quickly. She opened her sleepy eyes and called out, Sister Tian, in a daze. Then, she could not fall asleep. The car is outside. Tian brought Fu Yun Ruo and the others to find their car. Fu Yun Ruo was happy when she saw that there was a children's chair in the middle of the backseat. Tian was really thoughtful. After getting into the car, Fu Yun Ruo took off her hat. Her face was not very similar to usual. She was neither young nor old and could be considered a celebrity. In order to avoid trouble on the way, she and Wen had disguised themselves. Only then did Fu Yun Ruo know that Shengnan had superb makeup skills. After her makeup, she only looked 20% like her original appearance. When others saw her, they would only think that she looked a little familiar and would not think of her. If she had not sent the photo to Tian in advance, Tian would not have recognized her. Tian drove them out of the airport. Fu Yun Ruo looked at the traffic outside the window and the tall buildings. She was not used to such a bustling city. She wanted to see if it was different from what she remembered. The unique city landmarks were still there, but the details of the surrounding environment were a little different. It was not what she remembered. This was a city that was both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Not long after Wen got into the car, he quickly became energetic. He stretched his neck and wanted to look outside. He was extremely curious about the difference between the capital from 20 years ago and the future. Chapter 58. The red car stopped in a beautiful neighborhood. Tian drove them back to her place. She had bought a 2-bedroom house in the capital 2 years ago. It was not big, but it was enough for her to live alone. She had already tidied up the guest room. Fu Yun Ruo and Wen would stay in the guest room for the time being, while Shengnan would stay with her. The house is a little small. Don't mind it. How can that be? Fu Yunruo observed for a while and praised. Did you design the structure of this house? It looks very warm and comfortable. Tiantian's house was decorated very warmly, and the design looked very classy. It did not look small at all. Looking at it made people feel comfortable, and they could see the beautiful scenery from the balcony. Although it was less than 90 square meters, she had struggled in the capital at a young age. She had a house and a car. Many people might not be able to achieve her achievements even after decades. It was very impressive. Tiantian smiled and said, "How can I design? I hired a famous interior designer to help me design it." For this, she had spent a lot of money on design services, but for the sake of living comfortably, she gritted her teeth and spent it. Now, it seemed that the money was well spent. The bathroom is here. Tiantian introduced it briefly. I bought a few sets of daily necessities. Make do with them. Fu Yunruo looked around. There were 4 sets of toothbrushes and cups on the sink. One of them was a set of sky blue children's tools. It was obvious that it was prepared for one. There were also a few brand new towels hanging on the bathroom wall. You guys take a shower first and rest for a while. I've made an appointment to see the house at 10:00 tomorrow morning. There's no rush. Tiantian knew that they were very tired at the moment, so she let them take a shower and then sleep for a while. When they recovered, they would go out to eat to welcome them. She was physically and mentally exhausted every time she took a long-distance car ride, so she felt the same way. Fu Yunruo nodded and did not refuse. After 2 to 3 days of traveling, she was indeed very tired. Fu Yunruo helped Wenwen take a shower first, and then it was her turn. After taking a shower, she felt much more comfortable. It was as if all her fatigue had been washed away. Tiantian was not idle either. She washed a lot of fruits and placed many delicious snacks on the coffee table in the living room. Wenwen sat on the sofa and looked at the TV screen hanging on the opposite wall. SpongeBob SquarePants was playing on it. On one hand, Wenwen felt that it was childish, but on the other hand, she was watching with great interest. Fu Yunruo's hair had just been blown dry. Her hair was thick and long, reaching her waist. She felt that it was rather inconvenient for her hair to be spread out in front of her chest, so she loosely tied up the end of her hair half a palm above her head. "Mom, this snack is delicious." Wenwen saw Fu Yun walking over and quickly shared it with her. Tanan poured a cup of warm water for Fu Yun and then sat down. This snack was brought back from abroad by a friend of mine. It is said that it is a very famous local pastry. Because she knew that Fu Yun and the others were coming over, she couldn't bear to eat them. Wenwen hurriedly gave Sister Tiantian a piece. "Sister, don't have some?" Tiantian smiled instantly. Wenwen was really sensible. "You don't have to specially entertain us. You're too polite." Tiantian smiled and said, "I'm not being polite. It's rare for you to come to my house as a guest. I'm extremely happy. When I go to your house, you make delicious food for me every day. When I come back, I weigh it, and I've already gained 3 kilograms. This time, I have to feed you until you gain 3 kilograms to be fair." Tiantian looked as if she could finally take revenge, which made Fu Yunruo laugh. They ate some fruits and snacks to fill their stomachs as they chatted. Not long after, Fu Yunruo took Wenwen to sleep. They slept until 5:00. When they woke up, they felt refreshed and no longer felt dizzy. Then, Tiantian drove Fu Yunruo to dinner. "I know a restaurant. The food is very delicious. I'll bring you guys to try it. You guys will definitely like it." Fu Yunruo nodded. "Yes, we're looking forward to it." Tiantian brought Fu Yunruo to a private restaurant opened by an insider. It was more private. The 4 of them sat in a small private room. Tiantian was obviously a regular here. She skillfully ordered a few signature dishes and then asked them to see if there was anything else they wanted to eat. Fu Yunruo looked at Wenwen. He was sitting on a children's chair that was specially moved in the restaurant. His 2 short legs were dangling in the air. Can these children eat it? Are there children's meals? No, they're fine. These aren't heavy. Some of them are quite popular with children. Fu Yunruo saw that they had ordered a lot of sweets, but they didn't order any of the dishes that they couldn't eat. So she said, "That's it." While waiting for the dishes, Tiantian and the others chatted casually. "This is a restaurant opened by a food broadcaster on our platform. It hasn't been announced to the public. This broadcaster had a lot of fans. He liked to eat and cook, so he opened this restaurant. He basically stayed here. In order to prevent fans from disturbing him, he didn't announce it to the public. Of course, he opened a lot of chain restaurants under his name. Fans would go to those restaurants to check in. How many days can you guys stay in the capital this time? Tian hoped that if Fu Yun could settle the house this time and there wouldn't be any accidents. If they were all in the capital, it would be easier to meet in the future. If things go well, about 10 days. It was rare for them to come here. She was prepared to bring Wenwen out to play and broaden her horizons. It would be even better if they could rent the flower beds. Since she was already here, she couldn't keep troubling Tian to run around. Only 10 days? That's too rushed. Doesn't Wenwen only start school in September? Why don't you go back at the end of August? It depends. Fu Yun Ruo didn't insist. Not long after, there was a knock on the door of the private room. Then, a group of people served the dishes. Tian saw the fatty in chef's clothes walking in front and stood up in surprise. Brother Fatty, why are you here? Fatty chuckled and said, It's rare for my peers to come and support me. Of course, I have to personally entertain you. Hello, Miss Yun. I've heard a lot about you. Hello. Fu Yun Ruo stood up and shook hands with him. If you don't mind, you can call me Brother Fatty. Brother Fatty. Fu Yun Ruo didn't hesitate and called out generously. Sister Yun. Brother Fatty chuckled and said, Wenwen is also here. I specially stewed a fresh egg soup. I hope you like it. This fresh egg soup was not on the menu of the restaurant. His son liked to eat this very much. He only made it at home. Thank you, uncle. Wenwen thanked him politely. Fu Yun Ruo thanked him. Thank you for your trouble. Let's add each other on WeChat. We can be considered colleagues. In the future, when you come to the capital to develop, let's keep in touch. Fu Yun Ruo didn't refuse. I won't disturb you anymore. Enjoy your meal. Fatty didn't stay for long. The dishes they ordered were served very quickly. Fu Yun Ruo and the others began to eat. Tian said, Brother Fatty Ruo is quite a good person. He's loyal to his friends and has a gentle temper. When she worked at the platform company in the past, she didn't have much experience and couldn't come into contact with famous streamers. Later, she came to this restaurant by chance and learned that she was an employee of the platform company. She even gave her a 50% discount and spoke to her in a very friendly manner. She didn't put on any airs at all. Fu Yun Ruo nodded. If we want to develop here in the future, it's good to know more people in the same circle. After all, one more friend meant one more network. In the past, Fu Yun Ruo had been broadcasting in the mountain village and didn't show her face. She didn't have a deep relationship with the other big streamers on the platform. Now that she was in the capital, she naturally had to integrate into the capital circle. However, now was the time to enjoy delicious food, so Tian didn't talk much about work. Fu Yun Ruo took the first bite and her eyes lit up. As expected of a famous food streamer, the taste was superb. Wenwen also liked it very much. He took a bite of the stewed egg. It was fresh, tender, smooth, and melted in his mouth. It was the best he had ever eaten. Wenwen immediately scooped a spoonful and tried her best to stretch out her chubby little hand to Fu Yun Ruo's mouth. Mommy, eat. Fu Yun Ruo leaned over and finished eating. It's so delicious. Wenwen was happy. After the lively meal, Fu Yun Ruo went to pay the bill and was told that the boss had waived the bill. She was quite embarrassed that he had treated her to a meal when they had just met. However, it was the busiest time in the restaurant. The boss was busy in the kitchen. Fu Yun Ruo didn't want to disturb him at this time, so she transferred the money over to the WeChat account she had just added and then praised the food. Indeed, they all liked it very much. The 3 women and 1 child ate all the food on the table. All of them were full. After taking the car back, they didn't go up immediately. Instead, they strolled around the neighborhood for about an hour before going back. At 10:30 p.m., Brother Fatty sent a message. He said a lot, saying that she was being too polite by giving him money and then refused to accept it. Fu Yun Ruo replied for a while, but in the end, she said that she couldn't win. Brother Fatty, are you trying to chase us away? I don't dare to go next time. Feel free to come. There won't be a waiver next time. I'll give you a 50% discount. I'll do the same for my other friends. Seeing this, Fu Yunruo didn't say anything. Not long after, Fatty pulled Fu Yunruo into a group. There were only 13 people. As soon as she entered, many messages jumped out in the group. Fatty, the person you want to see is here. Taodai, we've been friends for a long time. Lark, welcome, welcome. Fu Yunruo sent a message out, and it became even more lively. Fu Yunruo read their self-introductions. They were all well-known streamers on the platform. Some had already retired, and some were still active. Basically, they were all big streamers with tens of millions of fans. Lark, why did Yun go to the capital? Come to my great Shanghai. We can play together. Taodai, Yun is originally from the capital. Why don't you go to your place? CS, actually, it's good to come to my place. Why don't you consider it? Fu Yunruo saw that their nicknames were more appropriate for her live broadcast content, so she also gave herself a nickname, Orchid. Then, she thanked them for their kindness and said that she would consider it. If she needed help, she would definitely ask them for help. Among the 13 people, 7 of them had already retired or semi-retired. Only 6 of them, including her, were popular anchors on the platform. They were scattered all over the country, and 3 of them even lived abroad. There were only 4 of them, including her, who were in the capital. Some people were also raising plants at this time. They just happened to have questions to ask her, and the others also sent a few pictures over. Fu Yunruo didn't expect that so many people were also raising flowers, and many of them were raising orchids. When it came to her profession, she had a lot to say. In the end, she found out that many of them fell into the pit after watching the pictures she took in the videos she made. In addition, they had time and space, so they bought a few pots of orchids to raise. As a result, the orchids they raised were not like that at all. They always felt that they were not as spiritual as Fu Yunruo's. In fact, they all admired Fu Yunruo very much. Just like the photos taken by the top photographers, the paintings drawn by the best painters, and the songs composed by the most famous musicians, they all had one thing in common, which was to inject soul into their works, so that people could resonate with them and feel the joy, anger, sorrow, and joy expressed in their works. The flowers raised by Fu Yunruo were like this. Perhaps it was because she poured all her energy and effort into them with love, so her flowers made people feel warm and happy when they looked at them. After Fu Yunruo became famous, she set off a craze for cloud plant cultivation. Many people wanted to copy her success, but no one did it like her. Some people's success was not accidental, but inevitable. Unknowingly, they chatted until midnight. Fu Yunruo rarely slept so late, and at this moment, she could not bear it anymore. After saying goodnight, she turned off her phone and fell asleep as soon as she closed her eyes. The next day, Tian brought them to look at the house and said, "Other than this house, I've looked at a few other houses, and they basically meet your requirements. But I think this one is the best, but if you don't like it, we can look at other houses." Although she said that, Tian actually hoped that she could directly decide on that villa, because it was really too good. If she had the money, she would definitely buy it without hesitation. Compared to this house, the other houses had no advantage at all. The car stopped at the entrance of a very high-end neighborhood. A middle-aged man in a suit was already standing at the door. "Miss Tian, you're here?" "Hello, Mr. Imo. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Miss Fu who wants to buy a house." "Hello, it's an honor to serve you." The few of them exchanged a few pleasantries, and the car quickly drove in. The entrance and exit of the neighborhood was very strict. Non-residents had to register, and only guests of the owner of the neighborhood were allowed to enter. This Mr. Imo was the agent of the owner who wanted to sell the house, so with him leading the way, they could only enter the neighborhood after registering. In Fu Yunruo's eyes, such a strict inspection gave her a good first impression. With such strict security, she did not have to worry too much about the child's safety. The neighborhood's greenery was done very well, and there were not many people walking around at this time. Moreover, she observed that the neighborhood was separated by people and cars. After the car drove into the neighborhood, they drove for a while before arriving at the house they wanted to see. This was a villa. There was a certain distance between each villa, but it was not too far apart. It allowed the residents to protect their privacy, but it was not to the extent that they did not have any contact with their neighbors. The 2.5-story villa had a garden, and the environment was beautiful. There were many places for children to play. Moreover, they were considered half-famous people, and they lived in such a private place. They were not worried about being disturbed. She was so lucky. Although it was not in the most prosperous circle in the capital, it was not far from the center. It was a quiet villa district with good security, and it was said that many famous people lived here. The price of this villa was not cheap. As the owner had settled down overseas, he had to deal with his domestic assets and was in a hurry to cash out, so the price was very cheap. If the owner did not know the boss of the platform and knew that she was looking for a house, so he contacted Tian and asked her to see if it was suitable, she would not have had this good opportunity. Fuyun Ruo liked it when she saw the photo, but now that she saw it with her own eyes, she liked it even more. The renovation style was not fancy at all. It was simple and elegant. She did not need to modify it at all. 80% of the new expensive furniture came with the house, and it was completely free. There was even a small garden in the courtyard. The security guards in the neighborhood were said to be retired soldiers, so their safety was guaranteed. 5 kilometers away from the neighborhood, there was a kindergarten to middle school campus. She had checked. This school was top-notch in all aspects, and it completely met Fuyun Ruo's needs. Moreover, the owner gave her a very discounted price because she was a friend of a friend. The only requirement was that she had to pay in full. Fuyun Ruo's savings were just enough to buy a house, so she would have to live frugally for a period of time. Fuyun Ruo originally wanted to buy a smaller house first. That way, she would use most of her money to rent a piece of land and build a new flower garden. If she bought this house with her money, her savings would basically be emptied. She would not be able to rent a piece of land and build a new flower garden. However, if she missed this opportunity, she might not have such a good opportunity in the future. Actually, if she lived in this villa, it would not be empty or deserted. After all, she wanted to bring Uncle Gua and Qian Shengnan here too. With 3 adults and a child here, it would not be deserted at all. She looked at this house and felt that it was very good. Wenwen ran up and down from the first floor to the second floor. He also liked this house very much. The best house he had lived in his previous life was not as good as this one. However, he knew that with his family's savings, it was still a little difficult. Fuyun Ruo asked the members of the family, Wenwen, do you like this place? Wenwen hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. He thought to himself that this price was already very cheap to be able to buy a villa here. In 20 years, the housing price would be 10 times the current price. Buying it now could be considered an investment. He did not know if he could ask Uncle Yuan if he had a job. He could go and earn money. Tian did not want Fuyun Ruo to miss this opportunity. Ruo, if you don't have enough, I still have some savings here. However, she could not borrow much. After all, she had also bought a house and was paying off the loan. The pressure was greater. Fuyun Ruo said, thank you, but there's no need. I have it. Seeing that when Wan was looking at her expectantly, the other 2 people also nervously watched her make a decision. Fuyun Ruo gritted her teeth and bought it. Chapter 59. Perhaps the employer was in a hurry, so the procedures were completed very quickly. As soon as Fuyun Ruo agreed, Mr. Mo brought her around for 3 days to complete all the procedures. Fuyun Ruo's savings were basically emptied and exchanged for a light property certificate. Although she was back to square one, Fuyun Ruo's heart suddenly felt at ease when she looked at this small book. This was a house that completely belonged to her. This was her and Wenwen's home. Although the old house in Shanghe village and the house in the flower bed were where she lived and she treated them as her home, they were not her house after all. This book made her heart feel at ease. Wenwen Ruo was also very happy. To be able to buy such a villa in the capital where every inch of land was worth an inch of gold? It was not easy. Mom, you're so awesome. Wenwen Ruo is also awesome. After buying it, this house was completely hers. The previous owner's things had already been moved away, so they could even move in directly. However, Fuyun Ruo was not in a hurry to move in because she did not have the money to renovate and buy new furniture. She liked the renovation style very much. There was no need to make any major changes, but the bedside cabinets and wardrobes in the room had to be changed. The room she was going to sleep in had a bed that someone else had slept in, so it was not very good. Therefore, The furniture outside did not matter, but everything in the room had to be changed. Moreover, Wenwen Ruo was getting bigger and needed a separate room, which also needed to be renovated. After that, Fu Yun Ruo brought Wenwen Ruo to the studio. This was the first time Fu Yun Ruo saw the members of her studio. There were not many people, but Tian Tian had good taste, and the people she picked were all very outstanding. They liked and respected Fu Yun Ruo and Wenwen from the bottom of their hearts. Fu Yun Ruo also realized that a few of them were Wenwen's papa and mama fans. When Qi Weiqing knew that Fu Yun Ruo and her son had come to the capital, he quickly ran over to meet them and even scolded them. "Why didn't you tell me that you came to the capital?" If he was not well informed, Qi Weiqing Ruo would not have known that they had left. Fu Yun Ruo smiled and said, "We will leave after a few days. Wouldn't it be troublesome for you if I had to tell you? We're family. What's there to be troublesome?" This was his teacher's favorite junior. If he did not take good care of her, his teacher would not let him enter the door next time. When Qi Weiqing Ruo and Wen, he asked where they were going. "We're going to the suburbs to look at a place." Ruo Fu. As for Wenwen, the little girl was not willing to let others take her to play. She was determined to follow Fu Yun Ruo. There was no other way but to take her along. What Uncle Gua can't bear to part with the most are those precious orchids. I'll build a new flower garden here. Uncle Gua will just change the place to grow flowers. He should be willing to come. This was Fu Yun Ruo's true thoughts. On one hand, she wanted to have her own career. On the other hand, if she wanted Uncle Gua to follow her to the capital, she had to solve his worries. Then, she could act coquettishly and beg him. She did not believe that his attitude would not soften. When Qi Weiqing heard Fu Yun Ruo's plan, his eyes lit up. Will teacher be willing to come? They had coaxed their teacher for a long time, but he was not willing to come out. Would he really change his mind? I'll try to get him to agree. Fu Yun Ruo did not have much confidence. If Uncle Gua was still unwilling in the end, then she could only try her best to bring Wenwen back to see him every year. It's not that I want to criticize you, Yun Ruo, but aren't you treating us as outsiders? If you want to talk about where to transfer the flower garden or a suitable place, the seniors and juniors in this industry have the most connections. Fu Yun Ruo could only smile. I'll ask Tiantian for help. Tiantian was her manager and a good sister. It was only right to ask her for help. She did not have the personality to cause trouble for others. In the end, Qi Weiqing went with them to look at the place. Unfortunately, the results were not satisfactory. Not to mention that it was far from the house they bought. The place was not as big as Fu Yun Ruo wanted. They could only return in disappointment. It's okay. I've already contacted the seniors and asked them to help you ask if there are any suitable places. Then I'll have to trouble Brother Qi actually. Fu Yun Ruo did not have the money to rent a place, but since she was here, she might as well understand the market. If she was really so lucky, she could use that house as collateral to get a loan from the bank. Moreover, she still had a job and could continue to earn money. She had just accepted an endorsement job a few days ago. A client came to her door and asked her to represent a clothing brand that was close to the people. Yishang was a domestic brand. It was famous for its high quality, comfort, and simple and fashionable design. However, as everyone knew, foreign brands were more popular in the country. Fu Yun Ruo was a loyal fan of this brand. The price was not as expensive as the foreign brands, but the comfort and style were not inferior. It was probably because she was wearing the Yishang brand when she showed her face recently, so the person in charge of the brand looked for her to endorse. Fu Yun Ruo agreed without much consideration. However, she had just signed the contract and had not officially started the promotion. Soon, the endorsement fees would be transferred to her account. When that time came, she would not be so tight on money. Fu Yun Ruo and the others did not stay in the capital for long before they returned to Shanghe village. This time, they did not see Siyu and Yuan Xian in the capital. However, the internet was full of news about Siyu. His support videos were displayed on the big screens in the big city squares. One of his movies was nominated for the Triennial International Film Festival. He was brought abroad by the director to promote the movie. After Fu Yun Ruo told Wenwen about this, he was sensible enough not to make a fuss about wanting to see Siyu. The journey back took almost 3 days. The main reason was that there was no direct bus and they had to take turns. After they got off the plane, they had to take a few buses. It would be more convenient if they had a car. It would be great if there was an airport near the village or even in the city. When they reached home, they were all exhausted. Not long after, people in the village came in and out. Everyone was curious to ask if Rua was really leaving. Actually, the villagers knew that Rua and her son would leave this small village sooner or later. However, when the day came, everyone was quite reluctant to part with them. After interacting with each other for a few years, they all treated Rua and her son as villagers. Moreover, they had watched Wenwen grow from a newborn monkey to such an adorable child. When they thought about how they would not have such a fair and adorable child calling them uncle and aunt in a childish voice in the future, they were even more reluctant to part with them. When the children heard the news, it was like a bolt from the blue. They could not believe it. There Wenwen was going to leave the village and go somewhere far, far away? They all surrounded Rua's courtyard and looked at Wenwen eagerly. If Fuyun did not care about this group of children, she believed that Wenwen would be able to appease his little friends. The packages sent from the capital had also arrived and were piled up in the living room. Rua and Qin Shengnan opened the packages together and separated the gifts. After Rua bought the house, she did not have any cash on hand. The remaining money was not enough to buy gifts for the villagers. Recently, with Wenwen's consent, she finally used the money that Wenwen earned. She gave everyone in the village, including the cats and dogs, a gift as a way of thanking them for taking care of her and her son all these years. The days passed peacefully. Rua lived a normal life, and Wenwen played with his little friends as much as possible. At the end of August, Wenwen heard Rua's idea and was immediately struck by lightning. Go to kindergarten? Wenwen had already heard from Rua that he should go to school more than once, but he had never seen her take action, so he did not take it to heart. Wenwen's eyes darted around, and then he said softly, I don't want to go to kindergarten. I want to spend more time with Grandpa May and Grandma May, as well as Zhuang and the rest. Wenwen grabbed Rua's hand and shook it coquettishly. Mommy, okay. Wenwen thought to himself that he would not go to such a childish kindergarten with a little brat. With his knowledge, he could at least go to the 5th grade of primary school. Mommy, I'm still young. I'm still a baby. Rua was amused. Then, she straightened her face and said seriously, Didn't you call yourself a little adult? You're already a 4-year-old baby. It's time for you to go to kindergarten. Wenwen said, I'm not 4 years old yet. I'm still 6 months away. He raised his 6 chubby little fingers seriously. Little smart boy. Rua did not say whether she agreed or not. She did not expect Wenwen to learn anything in kindergarten. Her original intention was to let him get used to it for a semester first. He might be more used to it after he went to kindergarten in the capital. Since he rejected it and did not want to go, Rua did not force him. After all, he was still too young. He should be more sensible after the new year. Moreover, Wenwen's words softened her heart. Not to mention him, even she herself basically returned to the village every day to live and rushed to the flower garden the next day. Rua went to chat with Aunt May at night. She noticed that Uncle May left early and returned late all day. When he came back, he was all smiles. Rua asked curiously, Is something good happening? It should be some policy from the higher-ups. The old man is so mysterious all day. That donation? Rua immediately thought of this. Otherwise, why would Uncle Gua go out for meetings all day? I think so. However, Rua and Aunt May guessed wrong. It turned out that an inspection team had taken a fancy to the beautiful mountains, clear waters, and good air here. They wanted to invest in building a retirement resort here. This district was not small. It covered at least the area of a few towns. This investment was not small. It had alarmed the higher-ups. It could be said that this was a charitable investment that did not care about returns. If it was successful in the end, it could be said that it would spur the development of the local brokerage firm. The local leadership had been worrying about how to develop the economy so that the local residents could escape poverty. However, the geographical location of some places was really not good. They were far away from the city and lived in the mountains. Transportation was not convenient, and there were no energy resources to attract investment. This time, It was one of the top financial groups in the world whose main forces were overseas that had invested a lot to repay the country. Naturally, the higher-ups gave the green light. The higher-ups also decided to build an airport here to cooperate with the development of this place into a future tourist resort. This was a great thing for the local residents. Ever since the news came out, the price of the land here had been rising. The villagers' favorite thing to do now was to gather together and discuss when they had nothing to do. They had lived here for their entire lives, and only then did they know that they lived in a place with good feng shui. When they heard the outside world praising this place for being so good, they all felt honored. Fuyun Ruo was also very happy. If an airport was really built in the future, it would be convenient for them to travel back and forth. Everyone would also be better off. Chapter 60. The Spring Festival had just ended, and the aftertaste of the Spring Festival had yet to dissipate. Fuyun Ruo, Wenwan, Uncle Gua, and Qin Shengnan had already stepped onto the soil of the capital. Be careful. If you break my flowers, you won't be able to afford it even if you sell yourself. Uncle Gua stood in front of the entrance of a flower bed with his hands on his hips. He was in high spirits. When he saw a porter with rough hands and feet, he frowned. The employees carefully moved the utensils. Fuyun Ruo comforted them softly inside and directed them where to place the things. In the chaotic environment, a childish voice was giving out orders in a serious manner. A chubby girl dressed in round clothes stood on a chair at the side. Her entire body was wrapped tightly, and she wore a furry hat on her head, which made her look even cuter. The weather in the capital was extremely cold. The snow outside had not melted yet, and white mist would come out when one breathed out. However, everyone was busy at the moment, so they did not feel cold. These employees who were hired to move expensive flowers and plants were also happily listening to Wenwen's instructions. Fuyun Ruo occasionally glanced at him. As long as Wenwen stood in a conspicuous place obediently and did not run around, Fuyun Ruo did not care whether he caused trouble or not. Seeing that Wenwen was so energetic at the moment, her heart relaxed a little. When they left, almost the entire village came to send them off. There were dozens of children of all ages, and their cries were earth-shattering. They could not bear to let Wenwen go. Wenwen had been mentally preparing for half a year. She originally thought that she would not cry childishly on this day, but in the end, she cried as softly as the other children. Her tears were worthless. Fuyun Ruo was also crying sadly at first. Later, she was busy coaxing the child and forgot about the sadness of parting. Her ears seemed to still be ringing with the sound of the endless cries. Qi Weicheng had helped her find this flower bed. She did not expect Qi Weicheng to be so attentive. In October, he suddenly called her to tell her that he had found 3 places that met the requirements and asked her to come to the capital to take a look when she was free. She hurried over and finally chose a large flower bed between the 3. It was a 40-minute drive from the villa. This piece of land was originally used to grow and sell flowers, but it was not well managed, so they wanted to sell it. The transfer fee and all the potted plants in the flower bed were not cheap. In the end, under the company of Qi Weicheng, she got a loan from the bank and took it over. She even signed a 10-year lease. After the 2 most important matters in the imperial capital were settled, Fuyun Ruo and Wenwen recited scriptures in front of Uncle Gua all day long until he was impatient. He agreed in a gruff voice. If Fuyun decided to leave together after the new year, she would have to take care of both sides. Tian personally watched over the renovation of the house and the rearrangement of the flower beds and sent videos to her every day. Occasionally, she would travel thousands of miles to personally direct them. She was still worried about Lan Chao and her child. She wanted to spend more time with Aunt May and the others. She ran back and forth a few times in a short period of time. She had visibly lost weight, but her eyes were brighter and more energetic. Every time she came back, Aunt May would make a lot of food for her to eat, but she could not make up for it. She would even scold her for working so hard. Fuyun Ruo did not expect it to be so rushed. She thought that she could take it slow in half a year. She did not expect that it would be a little difficult to do it in half a year. If it were not for the help of the entire studio and Qi Weicheng occasionally helping, she would not be able to handle it. But it was all in the past now. The group of them left the village. At the same time, The Lan Chao and Uncle Gua's flower bed also left. The precious Lan Chao was delicate. Uncle Gua called a team of professionals to transport it. They took the special route and arrived in the imperial capital at the same time as them. After arriving, they did not even go to the villa. They directly came to the flower bed to settle the Lan Chao first. Qi Weicheng came to help eagerly. Yunruo, thank you so much. Qi Weicheng looked at the energetic teacher at the door and said softly. The teacher had no children in his life. His students had always wanted to bring the teacher out and take care of him in his old age. But the teacher was stubborn. He had always stayed in his hometown and refused to come out. His hometown was remote and inconvenient. They could not leave their work in the city and could only take turns to visit him. But now, it was all good. Everyone was in the imperial capital. Even if some were not in the imperial capital, it was convenient for them to visit the teacher. They were very grateful to Fu Yunruo. Therefore, even if they were in their 40s and were elites in their respective industries, they still happily helped to transport the Lan Chao even if they were being scolded. It's my duty. Fu Yunruo felt that this was her responsibility and obligation. She did not feel that she needed to be thanked. I said the wrong thing. Qi Weicheng smiled. Little junior sister, don't be angry. Uncle Gua saw that Qi Weicheng was actually slacking off and immediately shouted, What are you chattering about? Can't you see that we are busy? Coming. Qi Weicheng quickly walked over. Fu Yunruo smiled and continued to help to arrange the Lan Chao. Although there were many things and it was messy, there was strength in numbers. 2 hours later, the empty and desolate flower bed was orderly and full of vitality. The flower bed was much bigger than the one in her hometown. The flower bed was separated into 2 parts. One part was private property, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. The other part was open to the public. After all, the annual rent in the imperial capital was not cheap. She had to develop other businesses. Since they were raising flowers, they could sell them or contract some flower rental business. There were 2 sets of security systems installed in the flower bed. One was at the outermost part, and the other was at the inner part of the flower bed. The one at the flower bed was the most advanced security system. Of course, she did not have so much money to buy so many things. It was Uncle Gua who gave her a card and took out his own money. He told her that if she wanted to do it, she should do it to the best of her ability. Fu Yunruo finally accepted the card and took the corresponding shares according to the proportion of Uncle Gua's investment. After signing a contract, if there were profits in the future, she would receive dividends according to the contract. Of course, the expensive orchids that Uncle Gua was raising were still Uncle Gua's. Uncle Gua looked around with his hands behind his back and nodded in satisfaction. And not bad. When one had unknowingly gotten down from her chair and followed behind Uncle Gua with her hands behind her back. She walked with her short legs and looked around from time to time before nodding. Not bad, not bad. Her small clothes were bulging. Her little chubby hands could not be behind her back and were pinned to her sides. She walked a little shakily like a little penguin. People could not help but laugh when they saw her. After everything was tidied up, Uncle Gua bluntly asked them to leave. Fu Yunruo hurriedly smiled at her senior brothers and sisters. Let's gather again when we're free another day. The others agreed. We haven't been so complete in more than 10 years. We should gather. When you're done here, there's no hurry. If you need help, just let me know. Don't stand on ceremony. Fu Yunruo smiled and sent them off. She was really too busy today. She was almost done tidying up here, but she had not started tidying up the villa. Fu Yunruo settled the wages of the movers and left quickly. Qi Weicheng shamelessly stayed behind. Uncle Gua looked at the small second floor not far away and said, I'll stay here. Other than the fact that this flower bed was a little bigger, it was roughly the same as the one at home, so Uncle Gua was not uncomfortable. Fu Yunruo saw that Uncle Gua looked like he was going to stay here for a long time, so she immediately rejected him. That won't do. There was a small 2-story red brick house near the flower shed. It was left behind from before. Fu Yunruo had seen it before. Everything was complete. There were 3 rooms upstairs. There was a room downstairs, a living room, a kitchen, and so on. Such a large flower bed still needed someone to take care of it. Fu Yunruo decided that the 2 rooms upstairs would be Uncle Gua's. She and Wan would share one room, and 2 employees would be hired to take care of the other 2 rooms. Fu Yunruo did not want Uncle Gua to stay here for a long time. She wanted him to stay in the villa with them so that it would be convenient for him to take care of her. Anyway, she often came back, so they could stay together. It was better to leave a room just in case. When the children were on vacation, they could stay here for 2 days. Uncle Gua snorted coldly. He was a little dissatisfied, but when he saw Fu Yunruo's expression, he did not say anything else. The group of people took a car to the villa. They got out of the car, and the main door was wide open. There were countless luggage bags and bags in the hall on the first floor. A broken home was worth thousands of coins. They packed up the things in the house and realized that they could not bear to give this away. It was full of memories. In the end, they reduced it again and again. What was left were the things that they could not bear to give away the most. The rest were given to the adults and children in the village. However, there were still so many things. "Ruru, you're back?" Tian said. She did not go to the flower bed. Instead, she came directly to the villa to take care of the checked luggage. "I didn't know how you were going to pack, so I didn't dare to move." "It's okay." There was a heater in the house, and the temperature was much higher than outside. Fu Yunruo felt hot after standing for a while, so she took off her coat. Seeing that Wenwen's cheeks were steaming hot, she took off his coat and hat and told him not to go outside. Wenwen responded. Then, with his sharp eyes, he saw the small luggage bag that he had packed and quickly ran over to pick it up. This was his. He packed it. They were just about to pack all the luggage in the hall when they heard the doorbell ring. Fu Yunruo was puzzled. They had never lived here before, so they should not know any neighbors. Why would someone come to look for them now? She was about to go out and take a look when Wenwen shouted, "Mom, put on your coat." "Got it, little housekeeper." Fu Yunruo quickly put on her coat and walked out. Wenwen sighed. His mother was really too worrisome sometimes. Chapter 61. Fu Yunruo walked out and saw a tall man standing at the entrance of the main entrance. His black windbreaker was blowing in the wind and swaying gently. "Mr. Yu." Fu Yun could not hide her surprise when she saw who it was. "Yu. Why was he here? Could it be that he heard that they had moved to the capital and specially came to visit?" But she did not hear the security department inform her. Before she could ask, Siyu said, "I saw your figures just now. I thought I was mistaken, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect it to be you." "Don't tell me you live here too?" Fu Yun was even more surprised. She had been to the villa several times and occasionally saw the residents in the neighborhood, but she had never seen Siyu. Siyu pointed to the villa next door. "That's where I live." "That's really a coincidence. You moved here?" Siyu looked inside. "It's really a coincidence."
Yes.
Ever since Siyu left the village, they rarely contacted each other. Fu Yun saw his news on the internet and knew that he spent most of his time abroad and seemed to be very busy. Even Yuan Xian was so busy that he could not care about Wenwen, so she did not let Wenwen disturb them. Fortunately, Wenwen was also sensible. After Fu Yun explained, she did not often talk about contacting Siyu. Only when she received a gift from Siyu on Wenwen's 4th birthday did she know that he still missed Wenwen. Fu Yun reacted and quickly turned to the side. "Come in and sit." She brought Siyu into the house. When Wenwen saw Siyu, she had a big reaction. She immediately threw her luggage aside and ran over with her short legs. She hugged Siyu's thigh. Uncle Yu, I missed you so much. Why did you only come to find me now?" Uncle misses Wenwen too." Siyu was in a good mood when he saw that Wenwen still remembered him. He bent down and picked up the child. Feeling his sturdy weight, he pinched his rounder cheeks with one hand. "Wenwen, you've gained weight." Siyu shook her head. "Yes, she's really well nourished." Wenwen, who was originally overjoyed and excited, he twisted his chubby little buttocks and struggled to get up from the ground. He bounced over to Fu Yunruo's side, his round little back view nudging Siyu. Humph, he was angry. She called him fat the moment they met. Did he not want to lose face? Besides, he wasn't fat. It was because he had worn too many clothes. He will lose weight in the summer. Fu Yun face-bombed. Mr. Yu was really something else. What was Wenwen taboo about? Why did he have to bump into her? However, Fu Yunruo rarely interfered with Wenwen's interactions with others, so she didn't say anything. Siyu smiled, then greeted Uncle Gua and the others. When Chi Weiqing heard Siyu say that he lived here, he was puzzled. He remembered that Siyu didn't live here. However, when he thought about how Siyu had been famous for so many years, it was normal for him to buy a few properties. It was also normal for him to take turns living here. Uncle Gua snorted at Siyu and said to Chi Weiqing in a rough voice, "Hurry up and pack up." Chi Weiqing smiled apologetically at Siyu, then hurriedly carried Uncle Gua's luggage into his room. Fu Yunruo poured a glass of water for Siyu and cleared out a spot on the sofa for him to sit. She said apologetically, "I'm sorry. I just moved in, so it's a little messy. It's my fault for causing trouble for you." Siyu looked at Wenwen, who had been following Fu Yunruo around. The little girl was obviously still angry. She faced him with the back of her head, but her little eyes secretly glanced at him from time to time. Although Siyu hadn't contacted them for almost half a year, he was busy until late at night. When he took a breather and rested, someone would report to him about their movements. Siyu had participated in a variety show for a period of time, so he didn't manage much of the company's affairs. There was a huge backlog of work, and there were also a lot of things to do in the entertainment industry. Later on, there were some internal problems, so he went abroad to deal with it personally. Before he could take a breather, it was the busiest time of the year. He was so busy that he had to work overtime in the middle of the night. After the new year, he finally settled everything and could stand here. Siyu coaxed Wenwen in a gentle voice. "Wenwen is not fat at all. I was wrong. Wenwen, please forgive me." When Wenwen heard Siyu's apology, she climbed down the ladder and said generously, "It's okay. I forgive you." "Okay. As an apology, I'll help Wenwen pack your luggage, okay?" Wenwen's eyes lit up when he heard this. He nodded continuously. "Okay, okay." He welcomed free labor. Wenwen immediately pulled Siyu towards the huge pile of luggage. "Uncle Yu, these are my things." Fu Yunruo was speechless. Wenwen was really too insensible. How could he let his guest do things? He had to teach him a lesson when there was no one else around. Wenwen proudly directed Siyu to move the luggage. To do things, Siyu took off his windbreaker and suit jacket, revealing a slim waistcoat and well-ironed trousers. Fu Yunruo couldn't help but take a few more glances and admire him. Mr. Yu was really a very charming man. He didn't know what kind of perfect woman could stand by his side. Fu Yunruo and Wenwen's rooms were on the second floor. Uncle Gua's room was on the first floor. Qian Xingnan's room was also on the first floor. The villa had 2.5 floors. There were 3 rooms on the first floor and 3 rooms on the second floor. As there were many people in the house, Fu Yunruo converted the piano room and gym on the first floor into bedrooms. The study on the second floor was still intact. There was also a leisure area for the children to play in. Wenwen carried his small luggage and ran upstairs. He pushed open the door to a room, and the interior design with the sky blue theme suddenly appeared before his eyes. There was a beige wardrobe, matching children's books, tables, and chairs. The large bed against the wall was covered with a quilt cover with a blue sky and white clouds pattern. There was a photo frame on the bedside table. It was a photo of Wenwen and Fu Yunruo. It was the same on the study table. There were several photo frames in an orderly manner. There were photos of Wenwen when he was 1 month old, 1 year old, and 2 years old. There were sky blue curtains hanging on the bright windows. When he opened the curtains and looked out, he could see the beautiful scenery in the courtyard. This was a children's room, but it wasn't childish at all. Wenwen was immediately pleasantly surprised. His eyes sparkled, and he felt that everything about this room was to his liking. Wenwen turned and ran out. Fu Yunruo happened to come up with a suitcase. Wenwen immediately ran over and pulled her hand to the room. Mom, did you decorate this room for me?" Fu Yunruo smiled. "Yes, baby, do you like it?" "Yes." In order to prove that he liked it very much, he nodded heavily. "I love Mom the most. Mom also loves baby the most." Fu Yunruo saw Wenwen's happy smile and felt that she had been affirmed. She was also very happy. All the hard work she had put in previously was worth it. Fu Yunruo looked up and saw Siyu standing in front of the study table. He was holding a photo frame and looking at it. Noticing the movements of the mother and son, He casually put it back and smiled slightly. Wenwen was really cute when he was young. Of course, Wenwen said proudly. From the moment he was born, he was the most beautiful child in the village. Yes, in the future, he would be the most beautiful child in the entire capital. Fu Yunruo was even happier than being praised. Siyu saw that Fu Yunruo still wanted to move the luggage, so he said, "Leave this to me. Wenwen's room still needs to be tidied up, right? You can stay in the room and tidy it up. It'll be faster if we split up the work." Siyu pointed at the 2 luggage bags that he had brought up. Fu Yunruo thought about it and felt that it made sense. She stayed in Wenwen's room first and prepared to put the things away. Wenwen had a lot of clothes. Most of the clothes that she could not wear were given to the children in the village. She only kept some that she could not bear to give away, such as the sweater, shoes, and hats that Auntie May had personally knitted. She wanted to keep them for her collection. The rest were the clothes that she needed to wear now. There were quite a lot of clothes. Just the winter clothes alone took up 3 big bags. Fu Yunruo tidied up the clothes and hung them in the wardrobe. Fortunately, the wardrobe was very big. She specially chose a bigger wardrobe and hung the clothes that needed to be hung up. She folded the clothes that needed to be folded and put them away. This tidying up took a lot of time. Siyu had already gone up and down several times and moved the things from the first floor to the second floor. Fu Yunruo tidied up Wenwen's clothes and placed some of his toys on the bookshelf. She also placed some children's books. In a short while, the somewhat empty house was decorated with a lively atmosphere. As soon as Fu Yunruo walked out, the corridor on the second floor was already filled with luggage. She was shocked. Siyu said, "I don't know where you want to put these things. They've all been moved up." The things were all wrapped up properly. Siyu Ruo did not know what they were and did not open them to take a look. Qian Shengnan and Tian Tian had also finished tidying up and walked up at this moment. Fu Yunruo said, "Move these into my room." As the person who had personally tidied up the things, Fu Yunruo had a rough idea of what was inside. She carried a bag into the master bedroom. Qian Shengnan did not say anything and immediately moved the other luggage into Fu Yunruo's room. Siyu could not enter Fu Yunruo's room, so he did not interfere. He pointed to a luggage bag by his feet and asked, "Where do you want to move this?" Wenwen casually looked at it. He remembered that this bag was filled with his things, and they were. Wenwen's eyes darted around. "There's no need for these. Uncle Yu, help me put them in the storage room." There was a storage room in the backyard for miscellaneous items. Siyu saw Wenwen's eyes darting around and knew that there was something fishy going on. He was curious about the things inside and picked up the luggage. His hand accidentally touched the zipper, and it opened with a whoosh. A thick photo album fell out. "I dropped it." Siyu put down the bag and picked up the photo album. Wenwen saw that Siyu seemed to want to open it to take a look and immediately panicked. "Don't look." Siyu saw Wenwen's nervous expression and became even more curious. Hence, he opened it to take a look. Wenwen stood in front of Siyu and jumped with all her might. She shouted fiercely, "Give it back to me. Don't look." Wenwen jumped for a long time but could only jump as high as Siyu's waist. Her small arms and legs could not reach the height of the photo album at all. She might as well go all the way. She pounced on Siyu and started climbing up his pants. Fortunately, Siyu's pants were of good quality and he was wearing a belt today, so he did not have to worry about them being pulled down. Siyu stared at the photo album for a long time and could not take his eyes off it. Then, he looked at Wenwen, who was climbing up like a tree trunk. Siyu sighed. It's good to have a daughter. She was soft and cute. She wore a pink dress and looked like a beautiful little princess. Wenwen was speechless. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.